Hello, everybody.
Hello,
Welcome to, what is it?
the Macaw Podcast Universe.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And my name is Micah McCaw,
My name is Jordan Macaw.
and we're a married couple,
Yep,
and we like movies a lot.
we do.
And we decided instead of talking to no one, we'll talk to...
Each other and others.
And through that, we discuss film franchises.
Yes.
And we've gone through the conglomerate that is the MCU.
Yes.
Now, after today's episode, I think things are going to get a little messy with what we have and have not covered.
Yeah.
Well, and first of all, folks, so we've covered all of the MCU, but then once we catch up, we cover them as they come out with a new episode waiting for you the week after opening weekend. So last weekend, Spider-Man No Way Home came out, and that's what we're here to discuss. But in previous episodes where we have covered a movie that came out the day before, we keep it spoiler-free for a segment of the episode. Mm-hmm. And then we have a little spoiler song. I think since this has been such a reported on, and it's been hard to fight against spoilers if you wanted to avoid them, we're going full spoilers on this.
Okay.
Right off the get-go. So that is your warning. Here on out, spoiler heavy on the movie.
I think that's fair.
Yeah. Okay. And with us, we have a lovely guest. We've made some new friends because of podcasting, and it's the Eden brothers. And they were on our Jurassic Park 3 episode. And then earlier this year, Jeremy of the Eden brothers was on our Batman v Superman.
What podcast are they from?
Well, they're from the 90 Under 90 podcast.
Good.
But since he was on, it was like, well, we can't have I think they need to have an even amount of appearances, no matter how we slice it.
Okay.
I mean, that's been in my head anyway. So it was like, Dan, what are we going to do? And here we are. Welcome, Dan Eden, to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. This is a big episode to be on, so I feel honored. Really.
Yeah.
Who knew it would be this big, though?
Guys, if we're going spoilers,
We're going full on. Let's go.
Tom Holland is Spider-Man. You have to say it like that, too.
It's Spider-Man. Well, okay, so it's for 90 Under 90. It's Dan Eden. Also, the movie that came out earlier this year, An Intervention, which is lovely, and people should definitely check out.
Thank you.
Let's talk about, you chose this movie. I gave you a list of Matrix, Bill and Ted, John Wick, all this stuff, and you said, no, let's do Spider-Man. Why did you choose good old Spidey?
Spidey is will always be near and dear to my heart ever since I was a young kid. Growing up with a sibling, especially when there's two of them and you're kind of living in the shadow, you mentioned the brothers Eden is what I come from here, 90 Under 90. If Jer loves Batman, so every time he'd go right, I have to go left to kind of carve out my own identity. Sometimes I faked it till I made it, and sometimes I just genuinely love the things. And in this case, it was Spider-Man. So to me, I wouldn't say he's quite the antithesis of Batman, but tonally different, brighter. He quips, he thwips. And I just, he was Pepsi, I was Coke, and that's kind of how it went. But Spider-Man was always that thing that I naturally kind of veered towards, especially with the 94 animated series on Fox. Certainly.
Nice.
Okay.
Well, it makes a lot of sense then that Jeremy chose a Batman movie to cover, and you chose a Spider-Man movie to cover. It's all making sense now.
Yeah. So you jumped at the chance, and it's just hard to even know where to begin with this, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, they announced this movie, and I'm excited because much like you, I'm a diehard Spider-Man fan. Over the last couple of years, I've read probably, I would say, at least 700 Spider-Man comics, catching up, doing all that stuff. I love this character more than most characters in fiction. He might be my all-time favorite, maybe.
I would say that's true for you.
It probably is. That's a lot of hours to spend with one character. But, so, anytime there's a new movie, it's exciting. And I've loved the Tom Holland movies. Mm-hmm. I love the Tobey Maguire movies. I even sort of liked the other ones just because Spider-Man was in it.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are at this like conglomerate moment. This is 3 years after we've already had a Spider-Verse movie that was a perfect movie. That is, I would not change a second of. And they're like, hey, we're going to do another Spider-Verse-esque movie. And there is a part of me going into this that's like, why would you even attempt to do that after a perfect movie like Spider-Verse?
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the same way.
Agreed. Totally. I think we were talking a little bit before this, Micah and I, because Micah, he's like, I gotta know what's your quick take.
Yeah.
All right. I gotta know yours, man. But basically, I think Spider-Verse is still. Your fans might get mad. I think it's the best Spider-Man movie because it just, to me, it gets to what it means to be Spider-Man. It examines the character in such a way that this movie doesn't really have time to narratively.
No.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Spider-Verse is the best. Then I would follow it up with Spider-Man 2, Raimi.
Tom Maguire.
Yeah, and then I would follow it up with Spider-Man, the 2002 Spider-Man, and then I think I would put this movie next because I really loved this, and this was I guess my takeaway on this is I think this movie more than any other movie, for better or worse, and I'm including the other Marvel movies in this, but Spider-Man in particular, this one felt the most like I was actually reading a comic book. In terms of just how they're plotting it, and everything was like, oh, the reader's going to think this is cool. And I know that's fan service, and people get scared about the term, but this felt very much like I'm sitting down and I'm reading comic books.
That's great. I did not feel that way because I don't read comic books, but that's great that you felt that way. I can understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I've only read one Spider-Man comic, and that was last week. But I love Spider-Man.
Yeah, I haven't really read a book in a long time myself, but I know what you mean. There's a lot of splash page moments in this movie.
Yeah, definitely.
With the strange sequence and just the three spoilers, guys. There's 3 Spider-Men in this movie. I don't know if we get into this, guys, but there are 3 Spider-Men in this movie. And just them landing together. Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just because also, and this is a for better or ill thing. A lot of times in comic books, you're talking about like 20-ish pages, and there's a lot of economic storytelling where it's like, this is shorthand for this.
Yeah.
This is shorthand for that. Whereas like I think the Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi movies are very well developed, and it's like, watch this character, watch this journey, we're gonna sit and stuff. And this movie's a little bit more like at least a modern comic book where it's like, okay, we have to get through this page, and by the end he's got to meet this character. How can we do it economically?
Okay, yeah.
And I actually appreciate that about the movie and enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, so this movie's like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I did not feel that long to me. It just clipped along, like what you're saying. And like there was a part when Peter is starting to like help the bad guys like kind of reprogram them. There was a part of me that was like, this could be the part of the movie that is too long. And that didn't even feel too long because crap happened,
Yeah.
So it was just, good storytelling. It was very efficient.
Yeah, definitely.
If anything, I wanted a little more time added to the runtime. Can I, maybe I'm just a big fan, but for me, I think the thing that was a little undercooked and I wanted to see more of was just the most interesting part was the Norman Osborn stuff.
Yeah.
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 He pops up, he does that act as the homeless man at Feast, and that to me was probably the juiciest scene of the entire movie for me, is when he walks in and he's in the rags and he's with Aunt May. He doesn't know where he is, and we as an audience, we don't know if he's BSing us or not,
Yeah.
I thought that was such an interesting part. Do you guys have a favorite scene? Maybe the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah,
sequence.
For me it was, just I'm a sucker for it. But when Ned finds out he can open portals, and they get Andrew Garfield first, but I like Toby, so I'm just like, okay, they got Andrew Garfield, that's cool. Like if they couldn't have gotten Toby, whatever, like that's still cool. And then they do it again, and I'm punching Micah, and I'm just like, yeah. That was probably my favorite.
I was shocked by this because when he opened up the portal, I don't know why. I mean, I've always had a sneaking suspicion because there's been so many people that have like been saying throughout online and all this stuff that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in this movie.
Yeah.
But I was like, anytime I heard that, I would just plug my ears and go la 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 la. Because if that's true, I don't want to know about it.
Yeah.
I want to be surprised. So we get in the theater, and when he opens up that portal and we see a Spider-Man, I just didn't. For some reason, it didn't connect with me that was a different one. I just thought like, oh, Tom Holland is like in an alley somewhere.
Oh, I thought that too. Yeah, but then it was.
But then Jordan grabs my hand and squeezes it, which is surprising because Jordan, I was like, whoa, she's having a big reaction to Spider-Man. This is great for me. This is amazing. And she starts squeezing it, and then Andrew comes out, takes off his mask. And we'll talk a little bit more about it later in a little more exciting detail. But when he did that, you kind of let go, and you were still excited.
It's like, okay, that's cool, but
then when Toby, but we got to hold our horses a little bit.
Yeah,
this is like the most fan-serving movie maybe ever.
Yeah, you know, it's like they're playing the hits with the villains.
Yeah, I know. It's just like if it all led up to this, I'm fine with it. Also, I hated Eternals, so it's like I needed a win after that.
Nice palate
too.
cleanser. I did not see Eternals yet. I'm kind of avoiding it actively, but this is like Micah was saying. Like this is very fan servicey for anyone. And like we're finding out that America, the world, is a bigger Spider-Man fan than the Avengers. Like it's the box office is collecting. The receipts show. It's amazing, no pun intended, the time we live in. But to me, going back to Spider-Verse, like this movie, I think it's a direct reaction to that movie. I think Amy Pascal, I think Kevin Feige might have put their heads together. They looked at how successful Spider-Verse was. They saw that the audience was ready for something like that, and that the MCU was ready for something like that. Mm-hmm. And they decided, let's kind of, and I hate to say it, let's kind of ape Spider-Verse. Do you get like, and I don't think that kind of ruins the movie for me in any way. I still love it. It's just, I think this movie owes Spider-Verse pretty much everything. I mean, that and Spider-Man and Amazing, of course.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure.
Well, I can't get this struck me. We left the theater and I said, I cannot believe we live in a world where in less than one calendar year, we are going to be sitting down in the theaters watching another Spider-Verse movie.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to tear up the charts and be huge, and it'll probably win Best Animated Picture, and everyone will love it. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to, I don't know, they're going to make another Tobey Maguire and another Andrew Garfield or something. I don't know. They could do anything they want. It's like undefeatable right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But Spidey's on fire. Seriously.
No, that's the Human Torch. Come on now.
Oh, of course. When's Johnny going to get into the old MCU?
Hey, I am ready for the Fantastic Four, I got to say.
Do you want Krasinski and Emily Blunt as Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman?
I think that would be very, very fun, and I think that could work.
Or people saying that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's yeah.
But I kind of Marvel, for all of its ills, the one thing that it consistently gets of this 27 movie series now is everyone but like maybe 3 or 4 actors in the whole series are perfect casting.
Yeah.
So whenever they announce Fantastic Four, if it's unknowns or if it's like actors that I don't even like, I'm like, I don't know, they're not going to mess up the Fantastic Four for like a 4th time. They're going to get it this time. So
I hope so.
Just put your faith in Feige and just sit back and enjoy. That's going to be a dark day when he decides to, like, guys, I think you got this. I'm going to peace out and do Star Wars for a while and do to Star Wars what I did to Marvel. Like, oh no, get back here, man.
Yeah, I know.
Please.
Well, okay, so that's interesting you bring up Star Wars, because I think if we go back to us talking about this being very fan servicey, I would contrast this with Rise of Skywalker in a big way. Now, when I left the theaters, I saw Rise of Skywalker twice. I liked that movie. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, but as an actual movie and an actual story, it's like pretty objectively a lot of bad storytelling choices are made in that movie. But that movie is very much like, hey, we want to have our cake and eat it too. We want to please like the Rian Johnson heads and the old George Lucas people. Like we want everything. And that was a very fan servicey movie, but to a detriment to the plot of the movie. And that I would cite as like the opposite example of this movie. That is just like every scene you're like, no way, no way. But it really does carry. I think it's a very cohesive story.
It does feel, I'd say 90% organic, the storytelling and those oh shit moments. Like really.
Yeah.
The other 10%, are we gonna do like beat by beat or just want to do bird's eye?
Well, I think we got a beat by beat because it's pretty wild.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Yeah. So I guess I'll get into it as we go.
But so I'll hit some of the notes about the making of the movie, and then we can pretty much dive into the plot. But before we do, you did ask what was our favorite part of the movie, and I will say my favorite part was the last scene when he walked into his apartment and spun away, because I like where it led, where it ends with where Peter's at. But I will talk in more detail when we get there.
That's a good answer because it's
3 hours from now at the end of this episode.
Makes us most excited for the future of Spider-Man, how it ends, and I think that's great. You know, that's what more can you ask for?
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that was cool about the movie, a lot of times when I'm sitting watching a Marvel movie, I keep thinking about the possibilities, and I get excited about the possibilities. And when I leave a Marvel movie, a lot of times I'm like, oh, there's a lot of cool stuff that's going to happen, but I'm not necessarily appreciating what did happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this movie, when I walked out, I was like, I mean, I'm excited for future Spider-Man, but I'm not necessarily like, oh my gosh, now I cannot wait until Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
I'm excited for Doctor Strange, but I was like, I just want to go see Spider-Man again.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I know what you mean. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the movie is once again directed by John Watts. Finishing off, he's the only person in the MCU who has directed 3 movies in a series within the MCU.
Until James Gunn.
He'll be the second.
Yeah.
Then it's written by Chris McKenna and Eric Summers, who did the other 2 movies. And then the old cinematographer, Seamus McGarvey.
Seamus?
Oh, is that how you pronounce it?
How's it spelled?
Seamus. It's spelled like Seamus. Oh,
yeah, it's Seamus.
Oh, Seamus. Okay.
I know that because of Harry Potter.
So Seamus McGarvey started shooting this movie, and then he got COVID, and they replaced him. So Mauro Fiore shot this movie, who shot Avatar, Training Day, The Kingdom, and he's an Antoine Fuqua guy. Did like most of his movies.
I'm sorry, Mike. I gotta interrupt you. You mispronounced Antoine Fuqua. It's pronounced Antoine. Fuck you. I'm sorry, Micah. I'm sorry. Usually, I don't correct the host when I'm the guest, but it's Antoine. Fuck you. Of Tears of the Sun fame.
At first, I thought to myself, really? I thought for sure before you said what you said. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I pronounced it right, but
I got him.
I stand corrected. The music is by Michael Giacchino, who did the other 2.
Sorry.
And the movie came out last weekend. You know that, folks. Okay, this shocked me. This movie has a $200 million budget.
Yeah.
I thought it would have been a much higher budget.
Really?
That is incredibly expensive, but I would think that
just with everything that's going on.
Yeah, getting Toby, getting Willem, getting Alfred.
Yeah.
I thought that would eat up like $150 million right there.
Yeah.
Not to mention the returning cast, but I would love to see a breakdown, but
the rumors was that there was like, oh, will Toby be in it because he's holding out for a bigger payday? It's like, oh, really? Well, this will inflate the budget, but yeah, that doesn't seem that high for such a star-studded cast. You got Jamie Foxx, we got Reese Ifans, guys. Is that how you pronounce it?
That's the Sandman guy.
No, that's a Lizard. The guy who's in Hannibal Rising.
How
dare you?
Yeah.
How could you forget the
because
Lizard?
I like don't remember anything about the Amazing Spider-Man. I don't.
Oh, jeez. I gotta go, guys. I can't. No. Amazing Spider-Man 2. that one is just I like Amazing 1, but that second one.
Yeah. This movie, though, which again we'll get to, folks, there's a scene in this movie that made me think, oh, Amazing Spider-Man 2 must be really good, and I'm just misremembering it. But then immediately once I left the theaters, I was like, no, that is Amazing Spider-Man 2 is bad.
I had a question about this, because that's the one Jamie Foxx is in, because I haven't seen that one. So he's the electric guy.
He's Electro, of course. Come on.
I thought that the electricity stuff looked pretty cool. Did it look that cool in that movie?
It looked way worse in the other movie.
That's what I was wondering.
Huge upgrade in this movie.
Okay.
He was
a little bit older now.
He was like a pulsating blue blob.
Oh,
with human form. But go ahead.
When he was materializing at the beginning, kind of. I don't know.
There was an effect that year. It was a plug-in, okay? It's like in After Effects. They used that, and they loved it. And basically what it does, it makes it seem like you have translucent skin and electricity underneath. And they also applied like blue makeup. So he was like a glowing blue dude in that one. And in this one, I think his condition was, I don't want to wear makeup. I don't want to be a blue guy. Please don't make me be a blue guy. Yeah. But my question is, the spell, and this is like the biggest hole in the movie, is we have to go over the people who knew Peter Parker as Spider-Man and how the rules work in the spell, because Electro never found out that Peter Parker was Spider-Man in Amazing Spider-Man 2 ever.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Okay, that tracks. And did Spider-Man ever know that he was like an electrician?
He did befriend him as Max. Like he was kind of like, he called him his guy on the street in the second one. Like, hey, we're buddies. And he's like, we're not buddies. Like, you don't like me. Nobody likes me. And then he turns on the world. He's very emo in that Amazing Spider-Man too. But because when he never gives him his identity. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because when Andrew Garfield spoke to him and he said like, oh, you didn't used to be this way. I was like, does he know that? Did he? But he did. Okay.
He does witness he's not there for the change, but he's there before and after the change. So he does know Max Dillon, Electro personally, but like I said, he never gives him the identity. And then there's a whole list of people who I guess, and many theorists would confirm or claim or just theorize, whatever, that the other guys who aren't in this movie are in the MCU. We just didn't see them, like Captain Stacy from Amazing Spider-Man 1. Dennis Leary knows that Andrew Garfield is Spider-Man. So Dennis Leary's out there somewhere in the MCU, chain smoking, being rude, ranting.
Well, okay, but because I'm not remembering, so let me know if this is out there too much. But Does Electro call him Peter before he is imprisoned and knows that this Spider-Man is Peter?
I've only saw it once. I don't know if he ever refers to him as Peter. Here's a theory though that I think I kind of like, is that he's like a Loki variant. This Electro, this buff Jamie Foxx with the electrician's vest and the yellow streak this time. The theory is that he is, in his universe, he did find out somehow that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, but we saw in Amazing 2, I'm pretty sure that is his universe. So maybe it's another universe because he looks different. I don't know.
I just wonder if I'm gonna, I got to see the movie again, and I'll be keeping an eye out. But I wonder if by context clues he could just be like, well, if that one's called Peter Parker, and then Alfred Molina's talking about another Peter Parker, then our guy must be called Peter Parker.
By power of
still doesn't explain.
I want to explain it away.
Being there, right?
Being there?
Yeah.
Just being there in the first place.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
He must get pulled away from a universe we have never seen before. In Amazing Spider-Man 2, he's not from that universe. That's the theory, if that makes any sense.
That does make sense to me. Yeah.
Okay, so they make it clear, because I guess I missed this detail of the spell. You're saying they make it clear that only people who found out his identity leaked through into this world.
Yes.
Anyone who's known Peter Parker as Spider, I believe that's the condition of the spell here. I actually have these rules out here because I was doing my research before because I wanted to get this right. But
because I just assumed that it just leaked over, that these were just happened to be villains that Spider-Man fought that leaked over.
But they have to know Peter Parker too. So
that makes sense.
Spider-Man. But
I just didn't.
Sorry, I'm looking at this here. Yeah, I think like it has to do with his identity and people who know it, but I do want to get this right.
Remember Doctor Strange saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
everyone who's known Peter Parker.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If the spell erases everyone's memories, that means all the people Peter loves will forget too, like MJ, Ned, Aunt May, and Happy, and Peter doesn't want them to forget, obviously, so he tries to get Strange to exclude them mid-spell. Eventually, all of Peter's distractions and extra requests make the spell go haywire. We already know that. So why does it, well, this is a whole they bring up. Why doesn't Peter let Strange cast a spell, have everyone forget, then just tell the handful of people he loves his secret again? It's a good question.
Yeah, but then you don't have a movie plot hole, people. If you were in the moment and you were trying to work on a spell and then you remembered that you might mess it up, you do the same thing.
I mean, it sounds like a Peter thing.
It's such a Spider-Man thing for Spider-Man to call on Doctor Strange to try and save the world, and then in the middle of it go, oh crap.
Yeah.
That is like such a Spider-Man thing.
This is Screen Crush. If the spell attracts people who know Peter Parker is Spider-Man, that's what they posit then.
Yeah.
Shouldn't more characters show up? The short answer is yes. There should be Dane DeHaan's Harry Osborn from Amazing Spider-Man 2. There should be Topher Grace's Venom from Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
James Franco's Harry Osborn, who is apparently like Norman Greaves in this movie, like although he should be in this universe with his daddy fighting alongside him, I think. But you know, Franco's in his own hot water in real life. So
I just took it as the people who did show up, they like slipped through the cracks because Doctor Strange did close it so that remember how it felt like that no more can slip through.
That's not bad. I don't mind that at all. Like and then at the end, of course, in the third act, you get the purple cracks and you see these silhouettes of all these people, and that's everybody. Yeah,
that's how it felt to me.
That's how it felt to me as well.
It has to be that way in my brain.
Yeah.
So that I don't think too much about the other stuff.
Well, because then we would have like Mary Jane in this. We would have like
Emma Stone.
Yeah, we would have like all these characters, and obviously we didn't. So
yeah.
I think it's the same. You know, just like in Spider-Verse, like some Spider-Men showed up, but not every Spider-Man of every universe did.
Yeah.
You know,
that was another thing that Jer pointed out to me. I was like, oh duh, it's like only 2 other Spider-Men in this infinite multiverse show up here. What about Miguel? What about all the ones in the Noir one? What about Spider-Ham? So yeah, he doesn't bring up a point, but like here's me in the position just speaking for Sony and Marvel's like, why do you guys have to bitch about what we gave you? Just like it. Come on.
That's so true.
Well, and you know, I think those are fun posits to have, but I think story-wise, what the villains we were presented with and the Spider-Man we were presented with do track in the story. Just because they didn't include more does not mean that it's a plot hole. You know, they just didn't.
Yeah.
And also, at a certain point, the movie would be exhausting.
Right. And who's to say that some didn't get out? But I like Jordan's theory. Like they just got through the cracks and then he sealed them up really quickly. I like that. And then Ned opened some portals because he's got some magic in him, you guys.
Yeah.
Can we all agree he's got the magic in him?
Yeah. And I want to see more of it from him.
He's gonna be a wizard, a very powerful one someday. Who do you think was the all-star of this movie? I ask you both.
The all-star of this movie.
Who'd you love the best character-wise?
I would say that I think this is the first time that Marissa Tomei's Aunt May really hit me, and I really connected with her. And I think she truly is like the linchpin of the movie because she not only urges him to do what Spidey does, which is help people even if it doesn't make sense, like helping these villains. She's like, you can't let them die. You know that they're going to die, so therefore you have to prevent it. And we haven't really had an Uncle Ben type moment for this Spider-Man. We know there's an Uncle Ben. There's like a couple references, I think. But this feels like for this Spider-Man, this version of him, this written version, like Aunt May is kind of the Uncle Ben for the future. You know, like he'll probably always think about Aunt May.
Yeah, right. I think for me, because I have so little experience with them, I actually think Andrew Garfield did really well.
He was awesome.
And
he was awesome.
I can't remember anything from the first movie. and I didn't see the second one. And so kind of like from then on, it's just kind of like, yeah, I don't even really recognize those movies. I don't really care about them. And then he comes up in this and it's like, oh, he's so good and charming.
Yep.
He's
That's
great.
my answer also. Is Andrew Garfield. And my fear was, are they going to make us watch, like in the future, after this movie comes out, like God forbid it sucks and they totally fumble. We go back, we watch Spider-Man 1, 2, Amazing 1, 2. I mean, 2 can't get any worse, but are they going to retroactively be bad because of No Way Home? That was my biggest fear. And instead, we retroactively get, people want to watch Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 now because Garfield is so magnetic in this movie. I think he's just awesome.
He was kind of unbelievable, and and it made me remember that like he's not the problem with the Amazing Spider-Man movies. Like he's great in those movies, and he's particularly good at being like he's the best of all the Spideys at being like in the suit and quippy and annoying to the villains. Yeah, he's done that better than anyone else.
There's always the sorry.
It's just like in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, he's just, for my personal taste, he's a little too cool as Peter Parker. Yep. That's kind of my like. Come on, Spidey can't be cool.
You're saying this one?
No, in the Amazing Spider-Man movies.
Oh,
he skateboards. Okay. He's got cool hair. Like, it's just Well, how are you a loser? Like, come on. Like, I guess I lost my train of thought, but I thought Garfield was awesome. I mean, Holland's just great. You know. Everybody's awesome in this. I was just about to list everybody in the movie. Really.
I mean, Holland is like the easy choice, but it's like he completely carries the movie. He does it. Like he's done it 3 times now, and he nails it. And that there was a part in the movie. I think he was saying this to Aunt May as she's dying. Spoilers. He just keeps telling her like I'm sorry, and it just reminded me of Infinity War when he's starting to blip. And like he's just all he's doing is saying I'm sorry to Iron Man. It like makes me cry every time because it's just like why are you apologizing? And then he just floats away. It's such a kid thing. It's so good.
He's very good at reacting to death. Tom Holland, best reactor to dying actors. Tom Holland,
he's so good.
Okay, but let's go back here. We're still not even in the movie, guys. Strap in. So if you remember, after Far From Home came out, Sony and Disney had a disagreement, and they were like, we're just gonna make Tom Holland's on our team, and we're gonna make Sony Spider-Man movies. And Disney wanted a bigger piece of the pie, which in some ways, we all know Disney's greedy, but it does feel like Disney was like, come on, this is an MCU, like we've done a couple of these, we should split up the production a little bit better.
Yeah.
And so then in September, they make an agreement that Disney puts up 25% of the co-financing, and they get 25% of the profiting. And they do retain all merchandising rights.
Whoa.
So Disney's swimming in it right now.
Yeah.
And then now I'm just going to track the weird... I just think this movie is a strange example of like fans, news sites, and just how it was so hard for them to keep a lid on this thing. And I just don't even understand. I just don't understand it. So I'm just going to point out that Jamie Foxx confirmed that he was in the movie before they were filming.
Oh.
So before this even started, he posted a picture on Twitter and he's like, or on Instagram, can't wait to be in the new Spider-Man movie. And it had like blue electricity.
Okay.
So it was already like, okay, I guess there's going to be... I mean, right then and there, you're like, okay, so Andrew Garfield's probably in this movie.
Some kind of multiverse thing.
Yeah.
Are they aping Spider-Verse already?
And then as early as December, Collider runs an article that said that they had pretty much the cast of all the different Spider-Man movies, and they were all going to be in it. Kirsten Dunst, Emma Stone, everybody. And then Holland and Feige are like backpedaling, and they're like, "What? No! What are you talking about? Yeah, Jamie Foxx is in it, sure." And then in April of this year, Melina's like, "Yeah, I'm in the movie."
Yeah, what do you want?
And so after that, everybody's like, "Okay, well then Tobey Maguire's in this movie," you know. And the whole time I keep on like, I want to be excited about it, but I'm just like, I don't want to hear about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't want to hear about it. And then Empire, the news website or whatever, magazine, reports that all the villains from all the movies are in No Way Home. And Feige's like, no, we don't know what you're talking about. But sure, Alfred Molina's in it, and so is Jamie Foxx. But I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then that was kind of the end of it. But then they came out with the trailer. It confirmed it. Well, it showed Alfred Molina for sure, and it showed like a Green Goblin bomb. You never saw a trailer for this movie.
I avoided
you lucky dog.
everything. The only thing I knew was that Alfred Molina was in it because of the poster.
Yeah.
And I had, prior to that, heard one time that Tobey Maguire might be in it. And then I was like, that's it, I'm done. And I've successfully avoided it.
So then,
Nice.
The trailer also, it had some stuff, if you were going like frame by frame, you might be like, wait, is that sand? Wait, is that a lizard?
Oh, yeah.
So you have all this stuff. And you know what? Whatever they did, it worked because they are now the second highest grossing box office weekend of all time, just below Endgame. And they made they made over $500 million in 4 or 5 days. So I guess I shouldn't complain because it absolutely worked. But after I saw the first trailer, I was like, I can't do anymore because I do not want to see anything.
Yeah.
And a couple days before the movie came out, I had to get off Twitter because I would see stuff like I saw a picture of Willem Dafoe, and it was like Willem Dafoe explains why he's in the new Spider-Man, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I know that I saw a Green Goblin bomb, but I didn't know that Willem Dafoe for sure was gonna. You know, I don't want to know. And I think I avoided most of it.
Good. That's good.
Beyond that,
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's a hard thing to do.
Were you successful in avoiding things?
No, I don't seek it out, but I don't avoid it, and I just find out a lot of things. I basically know. I think I know the plot of the new Batman movie, but that is because of New Rockstars, and that's on YouTube. They break down and they do the frame by frames. All those license plates and the Doc Ock scene on the bridge. There's so many comic references to specific issues. It's like geek overload, but a few days before the movie came out, somehow Sony and frickin' Marvel let 7 minutes of footage on YouTube. And so I'm in my feed. I see, because they do the video preview where they show like frames on YouTube. I see frames that looks like legitimate footage of 3 Spider-Men jumping together onto the Statue of Liberty. And I'm like, okay, I have to see if it's legitimate. I press play. And all I see is the 10 seconds of the movie. It's the 3 guys unmasked. They're huddled together. They're just about to jump off and do the dive together. Peter 1, Peter 2, Peter 3. I love you guys. Thank you. And I was like, oh, this is real. This is real.
Yeah.
And I have to stop the footage. And then I immediately texted Jer like, yep, I just watched 15 seconds of legit Spider-Man footage. So I get excited about that stuff, but I limit my intake,
Yeah. I'm just a person that I don't want to know a single thing about things, sometimes to a fault. So like I didn't even know what this movie was about.
I don't know how you avoided this, but yeah,
well,
Jordan,
I
we're driving to the theater and
yeah, I'm like, can you just tell me the premise of this movie? It would just be nice.
She didn't even know the premise.
Man, it's rare that I go into any movie, even not even a franchise comic movie, just any movie that I don't know most of the plot already.
Yeah, I think it stems from when I saw Inception for the first time. I don't even think I saw a trailer of that. I had no idea what this was, and I walked out. I'm like, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen. I want to have this experience every time.
Yeah,
so I think that's
great.
Why.
Yeah, I gotta try that.
It's liberating
hard.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, the thing to do is to choose a director you trust.
Yeah.
And then go, okay, their next movie, I'm gonna avoid everything I can. Because that's what there are certain directors where I'm like, okay, anytime the Safdie brothers come out with a movie, from here on out, I'm going to see that movie. So I don't actually need to know what it's about because they sold the ticket. Although they do really good at trailers and they never spoil anything. So
yeah, for me,
the trailers can be exciting,
I like to write the movies, a version of them based on the log line in my head, and then get disappointed when the movie is nothing like it. That's just what I do. It's what I do. I'm a masochist. Yeah.
Well, okay, I just have 2 more notes, and then we can dive into the plot. The working title for this movie, which, if anyone doesn't know, that's what it's called when they're filming it to keep it secret, was Serenity Now, which, of course, is a Seinfeld reference. And, of course, George Costanza's in love with... He's not in love with Marissa Tomei, but he goes out on a date with Marissa Tomei. Mm-hmm. And I did see a picture of George Costanza with Marissa Tomei, and someone said, unless Disney says otherwise, this is Uncle Ben. Yeah. And I like to imagine that Jason Alexander is Uncle Ben.
I love that. Oh, man. That's great. But, you ever just get the feeling that these filmmakers, like, these guys are my friends and I trust them. They named it Serenity Now. Like, yeah. And this movie opens with Zimbra by Talking Heads. I'm like, is this movie made for guys like me? And women like me? What's going on?
Yeah. I saw this funny thing that it just felt accurate to Micah, but I think a lot of people who love Spider-Man, and it's a picture of a little boy, and it's him looking up at the screen so lovingly, and it has all the Tobey Maguire stuff in it, and then below it's a picture of a man looking at the same pictures, and it's like, me as a child, me now, and it's just the same thing. It's like, it's just, I love it so much.
But there's a lot of good memes from this one.
Yes.
Now, again, I want to stress that I think this is kind of the rare example where the fan service, the Easter eggs, all that stuff, I think it really works. But it is weird. We do live in this world right now where Spider-Verse comes out in 2018. Mm-hmm. This movie comes out. Later this next year, Flashpoint is coming out, or The Flash, which is going to have, they already confirmed Michael Keaton's in that movie. So I'm assuming that means they probably got Christian Bale. They probably got Ben, they probably got all the Batman. Although I actually don't think Christian Bale would do it.
I don't think so either.
And then we have another Spider-Verse movie coming out. So we're totally inundated with like pop culture is the king.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I think you know what I blame it on is that dang Ready Player One.
Yeah.
It's just they just throw all those. Hey, you like this thing from your childhood? The blender. That's how it is.
Very true.
It's like that.
It is true, but as I say, I think the book's crap, but I really like the movie.
I love Ready Player One, the movie.
I think Spielberg's having a lot of fun in that movie, and I like it.
It's whack. It's not wacky. What's the adjective I'm looking for? Yeah, it's wacky. Let's just say that. It's wacky.
Yeah. But yeah, so I do wonder. This kind of feels in much the same way that Endgame did. This feels like I don't know how you could do something more insane in this level of. So Endgame is like, here's the craziest superhero thing we can do, and then this is like pop culture and superhero. But they keep kind of topping themselves, so maybe they'll continue to do it. But it just feels like I don't, and I'm not complaining, but I just wonder when there will be a different wave in cinema that is actually different and not just based on things that we all liked when we were kids.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, I do wonder. Speaking of Spielberg, I think he was the one who said the Western, hey guys, look out, after superheroes, it's going to be the Western. And then Power of the Dog comes out this year, and it's up for all these awards. Mm-hmm. Harder They Fall is like a nice reimagination of a cool Western, very stylized. I really do think, maybe he's right. I mean, who would know better than the Spielbergo himself?
Seriously.
But I think we set the table, and we got to dive in now.
Yeah.
Let's eat. Come on.
So, all right. Somebody kick us off, because I'm trying to remember the first scene in this movie, and I'm not remembering it.
This movie?
It picks up right where 2 left off. It's Jonah Jameson. It's dark, man. It's the Mysterio cell phone footage, and he's telling us all that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Uh-oh. And of course, he's in the middle of Times Square. Jonah Jameson's up on the big television. Who is this? Jameson's in this movie? He's in this universe now? What? Mm-hmm. And then MJ, everybody starts bombarding MJ. They're like, "Are you Spider-Man's girlfriend?"
That's
like
right,
they put
that's
two
right.
and two together immediately.
Yeah.
And it's a scene, man. It's really tense. And then you QE Zimbra, which is cool, and they get away, and there's helicopters everywhere, and they're on the Brooklyn Bridge, if I'm not mistaken. And sorry, should I keep going?
No, yeah, and then they go to Peter goes home. Well, him and MJ go home to his home, and it's just like the movie doesn't really like. I mean, this first chunk is just like go 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 go.
Yeah, and this point was when I decided that I loved the movie. That's all it took for me.
Yeah,
because I was just like, they're really committing to the fact that he lost his identity. They're not trying to pretend like it didn't happen. I mean, of course, it's the crux of the movie, but the way they were building the tension, and they were just going, "Oh crap," and showing you in like 10 minutes, they show you how this won't work.
Yeah.
And so right away, you're like, he's got to figure something out.
I think one thing that I kind of would like to see more of, and maybe we'll get it a little bit more in other movies, because I don't think they had the time. But, now this boy, Peter Parker, is under investigation. He is arrested. And not only that, Stark Industries is under investigation because it was their equipment that killed this man. So I was just like, I want to know a little bit more about what happened with Stark Industries during all of that.
Yeah.
Because like this investigation starts and then nothing really happens because more intense things happen on a metaphysical level. So I kind of hope in other movies maybe they address it a little bit, because I understand that they didn't have time.
Was it Armor Wars that's coming out? Is that the new series that's coming to Disney Plus? That's probably going to be your answer to what becomes of all that tech.
Okay.
I think Power Broker might be in that one from Falcon and Winter Soldier, Agent 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Well,
it was interesting.
And you mentioning that, a character I've discovered in my fun comic book reading is Iron Man 2020, which is the nephew, I believe, of Iron Man. His name's Arlo Stark, and now seems like a great time to bring him in. I'm just saying that as that would be fun.
We're ready already for the next one?
Well, but the thing that's great about him is he's not really a good guy. He's kind of a bad guy.
Oh, interesting.
So he would be fun. Like he takes control of Stark Industries, and then it's kind of maybe a darker company that's doing shady stuff. You just got to have a heck of a charismatic actor, which they're very good at getting. So
yeah,
are they doing Ironheart?
They're doing that as well.
Yeah, so maybe
I don't know what that
he'll
is.
He'll be in that one. That's Riri Williams. That's the little black new Stark. She builds the Stark armor, and she becomes the new Iron Man.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
wow.
We could maybe if he comes in there into the mix, we'll have maybe a couple Iron Men. I don't know. It could be interesting.
Or what they could do is they bring back Sam Rockwell and he takes over the company. Justin Hammer.
Oh, you know Hammer's coming back in some.
They gotta bring him back.
I would love him.
That dance alone is worth him coming back.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we're seeing that this is not going to work for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Happy and May are breaking up, which provides for some nice. I mean, one of the best parts and the showcases of John Watts' skills, I think, as a filmmaker, is he's very good at balancing the light to dark tone and quick switches, I think.
Yeah.
And a lot of good jokes. Pretty much every joke in this movie landed for me.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we're just seeing how crazy it is for him.
So yeah,
he needs to get a lawyer.
He needs to, oh, that's right. So he needs to get a lawyer. Who could it be? But if not
Matthew Murdock,
Daredevil, which is funny. Where you told me this like days before we saw this movie, that Feige confirmed that Charlie Cox is his name.
Yeah,
that he would return as the actor for Daredevil whenever they want to use him.
Yeah, which actually threw me off the scent because I was like, oh, okay, just whenever, he said, not in this movie.
Yeah,
like Feige said, like he would be our actor if we ever do something with Daredevil in the movies. I'm like, oh, okay.
I don't know. He said it just like that. Too.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
I don't know.
So it was
he batted
fun to
his
see
eyelashes. Yeah.
And I think this is a moment where people could think like this is the problem with these movies, fan service and stuff like that. But this brings me back to a comic book feeling like I'm reading the comic book where it's like, well, of course Matt Murdock is going to be his lawyer. Like, he can't afford a better one, and he represents those who can't, who he thinks are innocent, or, sometimes guilty. But, it's like that makes sense to me. So I don't see that as like pandering.
I think when it comes to the comic book feel, it's casual crossover in this universe. That's what gives it that organic comic feel.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a big scene, and it's not really a big scene with Matt Murdock. It's quite unceremonious, but my theater went freaking apeshit at all the right moments in this movie.
Our theater was was very much like, ooh.
Yeah. When he showed up, there was just a murmur of people that were like, it felt like everyone was going, wait, are you serious?
Yeah.
And then the movie keeps going, so they couldn't even like adjust to that.
The people behind me, you get that, you get and you get clapping, which you got plenty of, but then you got the guy behind me. He's like, he was on the Netflix Daredevil show. It lasted 3 seasons. I'm like, shut the fuck up, dude. I hate going to the theater. I hate it.
Yeah. But you have to say,
I went to the theater to see this, guys.
Yeah. That one review from
so Demi Adijuwibe, who's a very funny comedian
and a writer.
He did his Letterboxd review of this. The last sentence was, "This movie is gonna be great for guys who like explaining stuff to their girlfriends."
Right on. Yep.
So
but I think with the whole fan service and crossover stuff, I think why it works so well in this movie, and it has in some past movies, is the characters are there to do something. They're not just like, hey. He's there to represent Peter, and it makes sense that he would. Yeah. And then,
absolutely.
When the other Spider-Mans get in, Spider-Men, so it's like, of course, fan service. This is so fun. They got something to do, though.
Yeah,
right. Our Peter, Tom Holland, could not do it alone.
And I think, sorry, Micah.
Well, I just, the Spider-Men in this movie are really hitting the point, both of them, that Peter, you can't have it all. We've tried as well.
Yeah.
And you're not alone. So they're thematically helping him as a character grow.
Definitely.
And, Toby prevents him from murdering Norman Osborn. So, I mean, they're doing stuff. They're not just... I mean, Matt Murdock is maybe the closest to just like a throwaway cameo, but it also feels bigger than that to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you were about to say something.
I was going to say, the only thing I wanted to say is when you can tie in character and the action just so seamlessly, and I think the perfect example of that is when he goes to meet the admissions lady on the bridge. That is him trying to help his friends as Peter, as Spider-Man, getting derailed by Doc Ock while still trying to complete a goal as Peter and also Spider-Man simultaneously. I think any sequence like that is what I look for in a Spider-Man movie. And even it goes above and beyond what I look for in a Spider-Man movie.
Right. Yeah.
I thought it was great.
Well, and that was the bell I was ringing when we saw Far From Home, which is like always what you do is you give him like a personal problem, and then it's something that he can probably like solve pretty easily, but make it so that he can't because he has to help other people and stop something from happening.
To your point, you guys been watching Hawkeye?
We're a couple behind.
Okay. But what I think they did so geniusly, and this is not spoiling anything, is that they made it so personal. He has to get back to his family. He wants to do Christmas. Every night he's not there, he's missing a night on their schedule. That to me is more important than any tracksuit mafia thing that's going on in the movie. I think that's so beautiful with how they do that in that show.
Definitely, I agree.
Yeah. So Peter, he goes to the school. The teachers made a monument for him, which is very funny.
But I love that Hannibal's like you're a murderer. Yeah. You killed him. And they're like, don't listen to him. He's a conspiracy theorist.
And Martin Starr is like, not Martin Short.
I love it. Martin Short shows up.
We do need Martin Short, though, to show up.
But Martin Starr, like Well,
he's like,
JB
you know,
Smoove
you
is
can,
like he did the whole.
You can crawl on
monument.
the walls. I mean, we're cool with that. Everybody knows you're Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm glad that they gave him a tiny little moment.
Yeah,
In
totally.
the last one, as far as I'm concerned, that movie was kind of about Martin Starr and JB Smoove. They had such big roles. It was like a National Lampoon's Spider-Man movie.
It was.
And then they get relegated to this, and I understand why, but it's just like, oh, I wish I got to see more of everybody in this movie, you know?
Yeah.
So,
but then basically, I believe pretty soon after that, we have the coffee shop scene where Ned and Mary Jane and Peter are seeing if they made it into MIT.
Well, before that, there's a tiny little montage of you seeing that Peter's not even getting into any of his fallbacks.
Right.
Fallback schools, including MJ and Ned. So then when they're at the donut shop, they have their MIT letters.
They're going to open them on the count of 3. They all open them. Did any of you have guesses in your head on what was going to happen there?
Well, I knew they weren't getting in.
I thought maybe 1 or 2 of them might, and it would break them up. Yeah.
I thought
that would make sense. Yeah.
I thought MJ was going to be in it, but not the 2 guys.
Yeah.
And then when she shook her head, I was like, okay, Ned's definitely in it.
Yeah.
I didn't call anything in this movie, by the way.
It makes sense. I mean, they explain right away why they wouldn't get in because you know, they're in light of recent events, and it's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so that's when he goes to plead his case with the person. She's in Barry, isn't she?
Yes, she's the cop. She's the detective in Barry.
Okay.
That's who she is.
That was bugging me.
Yeah, she's so good.
And so Spider-Man shows up, and like you're saying, it's just this great thing where he wants to help his friends, and he's not even concerned about himself.
Yeah.
Again, that's Spidey right there. And he, knocks on the window, and he's trying to explain, don't punish them for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry, Micah. Does the spell happen first, and then
definitely.
I'm sorry. I was there with you, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. There's a big moment here that happens.
Yeah, so he goes to Doctor Strange.
It's a lot different when you can't take notes during the movie.
Right.
Yeah. So he goes to Doctor Strange first.
Yeah.
To
the Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yes. And I love the joke when Wong is I forget, he's like
Sorcerer Supreme.
Sorcerer Supreme, and it's on a technicality. That's just a funny joke because Doctor Strange was gone for 5 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, Doctor Strange is he is apprehensive to help him, right? Because he's like, this is life, right?
Yeah, but then pretty soon he's like, okay, Wong's gone. We can try it. We can see.
Let's fuck around a little bit.
Yeah.
He cracks his knuckles.
Peter says something about like, I just, something about forgetting, and that's what sparks the idea for the spell. Oh, because he originally asks, can we all go back in time so that we can fix this? And he's like, I don't have the time stone anymore.
I think here's why the movie's not perfect to me.
Okay.
The reason he's reminded to go see Doctor Strange is he sees a decoration that MJ needs to take down at the donut shop, and it looks like Doctor Strange. I have never seen any decoration that looks like that. It's like a male witch with a goatee and a hat on.
I know.
What is this?
No, I think they could have maybe done a little bit of a more obvious one. I don't know.
Well,
like they live in the same city. Like it's not that they have to be best friends. He's
why
a
the decoration?
Kid. Yeah, it's just kind of weird.
He could just remember that Doctor Strange is the guy he spent time with, he's fought with, and he's seen what he can do.
Here's how you do it.
Yeah, I know that like Peter is living his own life. He's a kid and he's having teenage experiences, but he doesn't have Tony anymore. So he feels like a character that would try to stay connected to some of the Avengers if he could. Yeah. And Doctor Strange is right there.
He's a deeply lonely boy. And here's how you fix it, though. Okay. You have like this is the holidays. In Home Alone, where he's sitting at the table and the heads of his families float around him, and they go, "Kevin, you're completely helpless. I'm going to feed you to my tarantula." He needed to do that with Doctor Strange in this movie.
Yep.
Yeah. He just needed to have one of those moments where his head floats by.
I would have completely bought that.
Honestly,
awesome.
That would have been a very Raimi touch, and everyone would have left the movie being like, "Oh, they were just doing like something that would be in the old Spider-Man movies."
Yeah.
Right. The weird ones where Green Goblin dresses as an old woman in a burning building to lure Spider-Man. That is such a weird scene. I'm sorry. He even screams like an old woman in that scene.
He
remember
does.
that scene? I just watched it. That's why when you say Micah, you put Spider-Verse, Spider-Man 1 and 2 above this one. Spider-Man 1 is a deeply weird movie to me.
It's very weird.
Tonally. And that's why I feel like maybe 2, like, because it gets a little less weird, but it's still kind of weird. But 2 is a kick in the nuts. That it's just a bummer, that movie. Like everything bad happens to him. So I don't know where this falls for me. My point is, 1 is a weird movie. That's all I wanted to say.
It's just, I mean, and the other part about Spider-Man Raimi movie is why I like superhero movies. I saw that movie and I was like, huh? This is what?
Yeah.
Although actually I think I had seen Batman before that, which also I did make a costume and would run around the house. So I guess maybe Batman started it. But it might, I don't remember which one I saw first. But Spider-Man was crazy. And, I went to Sam Goody and bought the CD-ROMs that had the first 500 issues on. And so my love affair started there. Mm-hmm. So, of course, flashing forward, when I see Tobey Maguire in this movie, I'm crying. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. Like this is me during and I know the listeners can't see, but this is me like the whole movie. I'm like clutching my breast like an old frail woman the whole movie whenever they popped up on screen, because I would feel like a little pain in my chest. Like when he took off his mask and it's Andrew Garfield, like, oh, it just kind of hurt. Like I had a heart attack that day in the theater. I did. Then I went to the hospital. It was okay. Just a small one.
I have to say my quick little anecdote about my theater experience. I brought a ton of pomegranates because we are just filled to the gills with pomegranates right now. And so I brought a lot to the theater and I was eating them like the whole movie. And I'm wearing this white jacket. And when I get out of the theater, I'm just like covered in pomegranate juice.
Did it look cool though? Did it look
not
intentional?
Really. It didn't look bloody enough. And it didn't look like it was a statement. It was just like, man, it's got pomegranate juice all over me. As I'm kind of tearfully watching this movie every now and then.
Not popcorn. We chose for pomegranate to sneak in a healthy fruit into the movie theaters. Not candy, a healthy fruit.
It's nature's candy.
That is true. It's basically nature's M&Ms.
Oh yeah,
Skittles,
little
maybe.
pods, and you're left with the fruit that has the little holes in it that looks very strange when it's all said and done.
Uh-huh.
Those look very strange to me, like a pomegranate when it's all done.
It's
like it's all porous. It's like people they have that phobia, like that invisible man trigger thing.
Yeah.
That's like a pomegranate, like a honeycomb. Oh, it kind of. I get it. I get why people are like, oh, when they see those patterns.
Yeah, I not to derail. We have so much to talk about, but
I'm sorry. Yeah,
a friend of mine, he said, "Oh, do you have that fear where like you're saying, what I don't remember what it's called, but like if you see a texture that has a bunch of holes in it, like it scares you?" And I was like, oh, I don't think so. And then he showed me the most grotesque picture, and it was like on someone's back. And I was like, well, I'm scared of that. It looks like the person is made of spider webs. That's so scary to me. But I don't think I'm scared of holes.
I think everyone should be scared.
It's called trypophobia.
Yeah.
Trypophobia.
And I guess moral of my story, don't bring in food that could stain you while you're sitting in a dark room. Probably won't do that again.
Wait a second. You mean the AMC doesn't have pomegranates at the concessions? Under the glass? You tap it and you say, I want that one? They break it open?
Confession time. I snuck this in.
Just healthy foods. Yeah.
What?
I hope
our
Tinseltown does listen. I know, right?
They slap a lot of wrists during the holidays, so you're lucky. Anyway.
So
he goes to Doctor Strange.
And
Doctor
they
Strange,
cast the spell.
Yeah, so he's casting the spell. And Peter messes him up a ton of times.
Scooby-Doo this shit,
yes.
says to them. He's kind of...
Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say that I thought he was really... Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange... It was all so good to me, and I think it's just because he was very vital. What he did affected the story, and when we didn't need him anymore, he left. So, and they literally trapped him in an area in a portal where he can't help. So it just they just knew what they were doing. And I remember you telling me before we saw the movie, like anytime Doctor Strange and Spider-Man have to team up to do something in a comic, it's always the most fun.
For me, it is, yeah, because Doctor Strange is so serious, and it's always a thing where he's like, okay, Spider-Man, I'm going to cast this spell, and all you have to do is show up here at 7:00 and press this button, and then it'll work. And Spider-Man can like never do the one thing that he needs to do.
Yeah.
Because he gets distracted or something happens, or in the case of this movie, he talks during the spell.
I think it's a funny juxtaposition too, because Peter Parker is like intelligent, like a math-minded person, and he just goes to a wizard. So it's just like those two worlds can't work together very well.
That's the other fun.
Yeah.
With him being in like mystical worlds and going, but where's the science here?
Right. Yeah.
I always love that.
I think Cumberbatch is really also like maybe they just know who his character is now, and he's a character like in the first one he was cool, he was like a hotshot surgeon, then he gets humbled by his accident. Ever since then, like I always compared him to Stark up to that point, and then there's a difference. He's a lot prissier, he's a lot shorter, he doesn't suffer fools as gladly as Stark does. I really think he's not afraid to look like an asshole either. Look cool, unlike Stark, I think. And he's an antagonist in this movie of sorts. Strange is to Peter.
It's great.
And that's another thing that I like about this movie. It's such a Marvel thing. And they've done a really good job of this throughout this whole MCU, is like, hey, maybe a hero has to be a villain in this movie, or a villain has to be a hero in this movie.
And it doesn't have to be Civil War where it's like black and white. It can be, there could be gray areas where he has no choice but to do it for the greater good, you know?
Yeah. Because you get his perspective in this
when
movie.
He's like, we got to send him back, but you can't do that else or they'll die. But that's fate. It's like, I don't know, he's kind of right. Maybe
it's a really tough pill to swallow, but somebody has to at least propose that needs to happen, you know?
Well, and he just got done telling Tony that there was one chance in like a billion or whatever that they would succeed in Endgame. And it was that one chance, which meant the sacrificing of half of the population. So Doctor Strange knew that he was going to sacrifice half of the population. So a couple of villains, not a big deal for him.
Yeah.
In terms of fate. He's fine with that.
Right. It reminded me a lot of Loki, the show.
Yeah.
That just like things have to go a certain way because they've been ordained. I mean, there's still a lot to unpack just with that show alone on what's going on, that I can't think about the show when I watch the movies now. But I just like that stuff. And they kind of do that in Eternals too, which is like my issue, funny enough, with that movie. But anyway, we've talked about that one too much.
Yeah, go back and listen. That's actually one of our top episodes of the year. So people have been listening to that one.
People love to hear us rant.
They do love that. All the rants are enjoy this time, though. So let's get to Dr. Octopus shows up on the freeway.
Go, Micah. Do you not remember?
No, I mean, he pops up and he's like, hello, Peter. And
everyone goes, woo, in the audience.
Yeah.
There's a big fight. And there's nanotech involved. And how do you guys think that went down? Like, how do you think the script handled the nanotech with the tentacles and Peter's costume?
I mean, I liked it. It's a little. I think some of the solutions for the villains are I mean, they're very fast, I guess would be my complaint. But I can just chalk it up to like, this is a different universe. There's different, like the Spider-Man universe feels much more like ours, and that's where science is at. This one's like way ahead in science. So you bring someone here, they can figure it out quicker.
So wait,
Good point.
This I was a little unclear on. So when they're fighting and Doc Ock is able to like harvest the nanotechnology. That's what happens?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that's what happened.
He absorbs it into his tentacles just intuitively, and then Peter takes hold with his interface.
Right.
Yeah. It is an easy solution. I would agree with you, Micah, but I guess there's just not enough narrative room for more. And I wish there was, but
since we leave this movie with Peter with no real benefits beyond a smartphone, I also feel like, okay, if the next movie he's just like, oh yeah, I invented this thing that can make my suit do everything, I would be very disappointed.
Yeah.
But if they want to do the last hurrah, ton of technology, and then the next movie it's like ground level, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, that feels
trilogy.
good to me.
Yeah, like like new trilogy. He's perfect. I'm with you on that. New suit. I love the new suit at the end. I feel like he was inspired by Garfield's Spider-Man to a certain degree.
Oh yeah, I
the
like
shininess.
that. Yeah.
I love where it ends too. Just big time. But how do you think about how this bridge sequence ends? Okay, because another character comes on, and I thought like, for me, you don't always have to be so ceremonious about a character's entrance, but you better believe when it comes to a character like Green Goblin, I want a grand entrance. And how do you feel about his entrance into this movie?
Because it was really short and really brief. And so why did Peter have to go away at that point? I can't remember.
Strange pulls him away, and then he imprisons Doc Ock. He shows him, hey, this is the setup, the plot of the movie here. I'm going to give you the gauntlet and all that stuff.
Yeah. If anything, how I feel about Green Goblin, it's like, well, to Peter, it wouldn't be a big deal. That's why it wasn't.
Yeah.
To Tom Holland.
I
so
like that.
Good
that's
point.
why it wasn't huge. But I understand, like, as that being like the first one, it's like, oh, that's it.
Yeah.
I almost feel like it would have been maybe like, for your point, Dan, if we see the Goblin bomb and then he's ripped out, and the first appearance is him in the alley like smashing his mask, because I like that appearance. It felt more like Sam Raimi-y. I actually wish that sequence was like a minute.
It just felt rushed to me.
Yeah,
I think all of Norman's subplot feels rushed, and it to me was once again the most interesting. So I felt a little tiny bit disappointed by that. I hate to say it.
Yeah. I think it would have been nice, speaking about the alley scene. So there's a scene where we see Goblin and he looks at his Green Goblin mask and he smashes it and he's like, that's not me. And he's kind of going
style.
Yeah. And I did feel a little pang of, it would have been cool if they had made this sequence a pinch longer, and we could have had something that was like 10% of the mirror scene in Spider-Man, where he's looking in the mirror, for those who don't remember, and he's talking as Goblin, then as Norman. It's like a, Smeagol and Gollum scene.
Yes,
And really just one scene of that, and I think that could have maybe made the Norman stuff hit a little harder.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Because this one is relying on you just to know what he was in the other movie, which is fine. We all know, but this movie doesn't really earn him.
Exactly. They don't develop him much beyond where they left him in the first movie. I guess they don't really do it for the other guys as much either, but he's the biggest foe of Spider-Man. So I was kind of hoping give him a little, and where his mind is, you could argue that it's even worse than it was before in terms of the struggle between the identity of Goblin and Norman Osborn. So even more of the Smeagol Gollum thing. I would have liked to just see one more scene of that, maybe 2, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, I feel like he kind of disappears at a point. Like once everything happens to Aunt May, from then we don't really see him until like the big fight scene. Yeah, which I know that they have a lot of ground to cover. So I just think it all like falls on. They just don't have time.
Right.
But
isn't it funny how at the end of in the final battle, and I know I'm skipping forward, but it seems like the villains wait for like the first 3 to get foiled before he flies in. Like he could have flew in earlier, but the movie's like, you just wait in the wings here, Green Goblin. We're not ready for you yet. Weird how movies do that still.
Yeah. Okay, so here's something that popped into my head. Tell me if this is a good pitch or a bad pitch for a future thing that could happen in one of these movies. They establish in this movie, they have a conversation where they're like, Norman Osborn, there's no Osborn company in this. Like, there's no Oscorp. So they have established verbatim, like, that is not a company in this world. Here's an idea. This could be like the next movie or the 5th movie or the 18th movie or whatever. But they start, a guy named Norman Osborn shows up, different actor, and he's in the MCU, and he starts building this company. And I don't know how the villain structure would work, but the whole time Peter is trying to prevent this company from being made because he knows who he could be.
Yeah.
His fate,
But he's also struggling with, like, maybe Norman Osborn isn't actually doing anything wrong.
I like that a lot, Micah. That's great. Like,
do you think like it would be cool if by him trying to steer him on a better path in this reality, it actually steers him towards becoming Green Goblin?
Oh, that's cool. That's pretty cool. I like that.
He's keeping his morality in check just from afar. Just like, I'm watching you, Norman, but you don't know it. And then maybe he slips up every now and then, you know? I like that a lot. It's very psychological. Yeah. I dig it.
There's even the possibility that, there's so many different versions of different goblins in the comic book. So even without going away from the comics, the movie could have this goblin that's attacking everybody, and he looks up, finds Norman Osborn, but this guy doesn't have anything to do with goblins.
I like that too, man. And you could have a Green Goblin / Hobgoblin movie going on.
Yeah.
Great.
And then maybe it does drive it to him. I mean, Feige, we know you're an avid listener.
Yeah. We know you're listening, man. Just, give them a call, man. Maybe
bring
throw
us
me
in for
a bone
pitch.
too.
Yeah.
You're in on it too.
Great. All right. No, like I was wondering when they're going to bring in Oscorp into the MCU.
Me too.
And wouldn't it be weird if just after wouldn't it be weird if it like after the snap it just appeared and everyone's like, that didn't exist before, did it? It's the one thing that just pops up.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how, but it's like an anomaly.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. I don't know how that would work, but
that'd be so cool.
Well,
I like Micah's idea. Yeah.
I like it too. But the other one that I think would be cool, before this movie came out, like right after Far From Home, John Watts said, I'd really love to make Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah.
Who, for those who don't know, is he's just like a safari guy who hunts. And
kind of lame on paper.
Lame on paper, but cool when you read about him. And I thought, man, it would be cool if this was before we knew what this movie was going to be, that if the plot of this movie was like, okay, his identity's revealed, somebody hires Kraven the Hunter to track him down, and it's like a chase movie.
That's I read a fake synopsis, and he was part of it, and it involved Peter going to jail and almost getting murdered in jail. And I thought that was a very interesting. If I find it, I'll forward it to you. But I'm just so glad that this is what we got instead, because that was a way dark plot that I read.
Yeah,
interesting though.
But Kraven was in that. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still think they could do something like that with a future movie and use Kraven, but apparently Sony's making a solo Kraven movie. Just stop making villain movies without the heroes.
Morbius, no thanks. I'm really bummed that I have to pay attention to Morbius because he's part of the bigger picture,
Yeah.
I'm bummed.
I'm going to kind of argue against that in a little bit.
Really?
Once we get to the post-credit scene.
Well, we know you're a big 30 Seconds to Mars fan, and you're a big Leto apologist, so this should be interesting. I'm just...
And that's your teaser to listen through the entire episode.
Yep. What if I wanted to break? Laugh it all off in your face. Those are lyrics.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I know those lyrics.
Okay, that's the only 30 Seconds to Mars song I know.
Hey, we'll just say I went through a phase, and we're gonna keep moving forward.
Too. I'll admit.
So
no judgment here.
Okay, they've cast the spell. Alfred Molina shown up. We've seen Green Goblin. Electro's next, right? He's got to start capturing them.
They already got Lizard Dude. Like we don't see him get caught, but like Doctor Strange has already captured him. So now,
like you said, unfortunate that they had to stick to the design that they made in Amazing Spider-Man 1 on the lizard.
Yeah, I don't think he looks great.
Looks pretty bad.
Pretty bad.
He looks like a Goomba from the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh my gosh,
with
That's
the
so
tail.
True. That's so true. Yeah, like there's a part where it's like a close up on him, and of course the texture's all there, but it's almost like that's all they could do.
I mean, that's how they kept the movie at 200.
And you got I keep it 100 personally, but what you got the inimitable Reese Ifans, and you got him hiding behind CG. But no, here's the funny thing. The funny thing is he does get cured at the end. Spoilers, big time spoilers, guys.
Yeah.
He gets the lizard cure, and he turns into Reese Ifans, and he's totally nude, and he's on the Statue of Liberty, and that's the only day he came in, I think.
Yeah.
Was to just get naked and cower on the Statue of Liberty.
Yep. Same with I forget the
check.
Sandman guy's name.
Thomas Hayden Church, right?
But at least he got to wear clothes.
That's
yeah,
different
I
because
liked this element.
when he turns to human form, I will put down money. That is all Spider-Man 3 footage. That is not
Really?
Thomas Hayden Church today.
Oh wow.
Oh, really?
I'm guessing he did voice work only, and I just hear he's kind of. I don't want to talk out of school. I hear he's just kind of difficult. Maybe more difficult than some of the other actors in this movie. So I feel like they're like, the less THC we have in this movie, the better.
Oh, that's
probably
interesting.
What they're thinking. But I don't know. I don't want to speak for the producers, but it just seems like I didn't even think it was his voice when he first comes in. And because we're pretty much there, right? It's the
Electro and Sandman.
I laughed. That was another part when Flint Marko just shows up and he's like, "Hey, it's me, Flint Marko. Remember me, Spider-Man? I'm here to help you." I thought that was so like contrived. Like, what are the odds that he's here at the same time as Electro here?
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like, oh, that part made me laugh. But his voice, like, Jared was like, he sounds like he's been chain smoking for the last since Spider-Man 3. I was like, I don't even think that's his voice, but yeah, he's sure enough is in this.
Yeah,
but it just doesn't sound like him. I think something's happened to old THC.
Maybe, yeah.
Well, what was interesting was as the movie's going on, he was only in his sand form the whole movie. And I just thought, like, oh, this feels very like COVID-19, maybe. Like he just was, maybe he's high risk or something, and he's just voiceovering at home. That's where my mind went. But I have to say, I think the impact of him turning human at the movie would have been lessened if he turned into human any other point in the movie. Because when he was cured and turned human, I know Sandman can switch back and forth, but it just felt like that took away the like COVID out of it and made it like, I think that just is more impactful.
And it takes away the human out of it. And I think maybe for the better, the same way they did it with, like, let's say Colossus in the X-Men movies, he was a human guy who would take that form. And then in Deadpool, he's just a cartoon. And maybe we prefer Sandman as that. We don't need as many layers to Flint Marko.
Yeah. Flint Marko.
Yeah, just the name. Just say it again. Flint Marko. I mean, come on.
Flint Marko and Max Dillon teaming up again. With Otto Octavius, Green Goblin. These are all Stan Lee and Steve Ditko creations. I don't think we have anything outside of them.
I wouldn't know.
Well, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all the first like 35 issues of The Amazing Spider-Man. You're going to see all those characters.
Wow, that's fun.
Invented.
I think this next trilogy, and I know Jared agrees with me, co-host of 90 Under 90, the podcast. It's going to be a McFarlane trilogy, baby. Venom. He thinks, and I agree, it's going to be 3 movies of Venom. What do you guys think?
Oh, I don't know.
Big arc.
I don't know. I think I don't want that, but that doesn't mean they're not going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, like, I would like a multi-movie arc with Venom because that suit is such a huge part of his history. But it could get redundant after a little bit.
But I'm not throwing shade at Venom, but after having read a lot of comics, I kind of think Venom he looks really cool, but he's like, I would probably put him like in the 20s or 30s of Spider-Man villains.
Wow.
I'm like, but I know that people love him, and that's kind of a hot take, but
I understand. He's kind of like the Boba Fett of the Spider-Man rogues gallery.
I do like the writer Dan Slott, who's written most of Spider-Man, and he's controversial, but he's my favorite writer. He did some cool stuff with Venom that I really liked that just wouldn't translate well to film, I don't think. Actually, it would only work if it was several movies.
Does he become a lawyer and it's just all courtroom scenes? Just like drama? And there's no action at all?
Not quite.
Because I'd be into that, honestly. If it was like The Rainmaker, but with Venom.
I mean, we do need a full-on John Grisham, like Matt Murdock movie. No Daredevil.
I mean,
it's just like him.
I would watch that.
You sit in a courtroom, you see Matt Murdock, who's fine. He's got the sunglasses in the courtroom, which is a little disrespectful, but he's blind, whatever. And you see Venom come in, and he's got a suit and a tie. He takes a seat. He opens his briefcase, looks over his notes. I would love that.
Yeah,
personally.
That would be great.
Okay, but back to this movie. Okay, so they get to capture bad guys. And I mean, they've captured him. Can we just say they've captured him? MJ and Ned are helping. The dynamic of those three actors in all three of the movies is just
great chemistry.
I mean, one would say great chemistry, like the chemistry that Peter Parker's so good at, or they're just electric, like Electro, Max Dillon.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yep.
And then when they get everyone there, that's when Doctor Strange comes back and is like, I made this box, push this button, they all
go back. Yeah.
And therefore they would die because they realized that all of them disappeared right before Spider-Man did whatever he was going to do that would result in their demise.
Yeah. I love all three, not all three, all five of them kind of being like, well, I was doing this thing and then
wait a minute.
And then I showed up here.
Yeah.
So, that was cool. Like they're all just kind of going, and it's like I compared this movie to Endgame a lot in that Endgame, we're going to play the hits. We're going to revisit some of the oldies here, and we're even going to redeem some of the shit, i.e. Thor, the Dark World.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about this. So just to play in that nostalgia lane, even whether it's villains, whether it's the Spider-Man, I'm all for it in this movie. It gets meta. It gets just I don't usually accept this kind of stuff, where they get too self-referential, but I thought the balance was just right,
Yeah, and actually I think right before this is when we get Norman Osborn, because Peter tracks him to Feast because Aunt May calls him and says that she found one. And we see him and he just looks like a frail, confused guy who's not doing well mentally. And it's like, but I think that's the guy. So they take him to the lair. And I really like this too, where Doc Ock is like, you're dead. Like, you're a ghost. You shouldn't be
and that's
here.
what like jumpstarts that whole conversation.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I love that. And then it just gets into the whole like, oh, maybe like we did see Norman smash the mask. Like maybe he will be better. But of course, we've all seen Lord of the Rings, and that doesn't happen. So when is he going to go crazy again?
Yeah. And
I'm sorry.
Well, I just to go back to the feast moment. I mean, this is when Aunt May like really hits it for me because she's like, this guy just needs help. You got to help him. And Peter's like, no, we got to get him back, and we're going to send them back.
And she's like, does that help him or does that help you?
Oh,
yeah.
And I've always been reluctant about Aunt May in this series because I like an old woman Aunt May. Not a very, very attractive woman who's still attractive after all these years. But I tried to let it go before this movie because I thought, you know what? Don't be that guy. These are adaptions. They're supposed to be different. And so when I sat down and watched it this time, I was like, yeah, her performance was wonderful. And she really...
And her performances were good before
yes,
that, too.
Yes, they were.
But I get what because I'm in the same boat as you with that.
Yeah, but she really did... That's why she's my MVP. I mean, she provided what Spidey needs, and she did those classic Aunt Mayisms.
I was wondering how they were going to do the great power. My theory was that Toby was going to be the one to tell, because Andrew never got that literally. What Martin Sheen says in Amazing is, you have a moral obligation to do right, which is just a remix of that saying. So I was hoping Toby would be like, and say it like this. Our Uncle Ben once said, with great power comes great responsibility, to unite them all. But I like how they did it in this. Don't get me wrong. To have May say it, and to say it more faithfully to the comics, her phrasing is more verbatim. Beautiful. Her death is so tragic. Yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah. So so let's get to that.
Well, so Doctor Strange and Peter fight over the cube.
Yeah.
And they go into I forget what he calls it, but it's just like
the mirror dimension.
Mirror dimension?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Doctor Strange.
I want to spend all my time in the mirror dimension. I love
really,
that place.
It looks freaking terrifying. So Doctor Strange takes him there because he has control over this world. Basically, Peter's helpless. He'll get the cube. But Peter, being math-minded, does some math and finds out he can stop Doctor Strange, and he does his thing, and he's like, I'll come back for you when I'm done. So he gets the cube, and he gives it to MJ. And she's like, if I don't hear from you, I'm pressing the button, because he's going to go with all of the bad guys to Happy's condo and figure out how to fix them.
Yeah. Great summary. One thing that I'm going to cut in real quick is that I did see Scott Derrickson, the director of Doctor Strange. He tweeted, and I was just happy to see it because he left Doctor Strange 2 over creative differences, and you're always like, oh no, what happened? And he tweeted like, oh, I was happy to see that like our visual language in Doctor Strange was in this movie. And I was like, okay, cool.
Good.
Maybe
that's
he's
good.
Yeah. It doesn't sound like he's bitter, he's
No. Yeah,
No.
I love what he did. He's a class act because he's like to step aside and let Raimi come in. It's just it's classy move, man. And I can't wait for that one. The Black Phone. That looks great.
Oh my god!
Oh my goodness!
Which
that
I
movie looks so
avoided
scary.
watching trailers of. All I need to know: Scott Derrickson and Ethan Hawke.
And Joe Hill.
Oh, and Joe Hill. Yeah.
So you didn't see the trailer, Jordan?
No, I think I saw like part of it.
It's chilling.
But
yeah, it's.
I'm surprised that I haven't seen it in the theaters.
We'll see it on Scream for sure.
Yeah, I would love that. But
speaking of trailers, back to this post credit. They've never done this in the Marvel universe. I love this. And Tom Holland said he wanted to be compared to like Marty McFly with his Peter. In more ways than one, you get that in this. In this one, it picks up right where the last one was, much like Back to the Future 2. And at the very end of this movie, you get a cut together teaser of the next movie, as far as I'm concerned, in the continuity, much like Back to the Future 3, that trailer at the end of 2. I'm like, this is how you do it, man. Like, you should premiere trailers at the end of every Marvel movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Now, I do have to issue a correction, though. They did, I think it was, what was the movie before Avengers?
You're right. They
the
did do a
post-credit
trailer.
scene was the trailer to Avengers.
But
You're
that's
totally
the only
right.
other time.
Yeah.
They haven't done it the whole time until now.
Yeah.
I totally forgot about that. Yep. Good one. Good. Totally forgot. Yeah, that got us amped up. They should.
Oh yeah.
I know they can't. We don't always have that luxury where they have one in the can and they could cut together. But man, that was just so cool.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes like I don't know, like the post credit scenes in Eternals, I was like, okay. I guess you're gonna make more Eternals movies. That's great, I guess.
Yeah.
And we're required because we have this podcast to watch them. Cool. And this one was a little, I guess the trailer was kind of exciting. I didn't really think of it in that way, but
yeah.
I just want to see like what Raimi's gonna do, like direction wise. And you see that shot of him walking up the stairs at the Sanctum, and it's flooded with like this like pond, and it's all dreary and boggy, and it looks very atmospheric and really cool. It's like I remember Derrickson saying it was going to be a horror movie straight up, and now I think they're going to maybe kind of split the difference. It's like it's kind of a horror movie, guys.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that reminds me of something else I wanted to say about this movie. When we're in the Sanctorum, it's all covered in snow. And one of my favorite things about all of any blockbuster movie that has this amount of fandom is when people see trailers. And when you saw the trailers of this movie, you see Doctor Strange like in a sweatshirt, and you see snow, and the world just goes like, oh, that must mean, and they start pulling comic books where like ice storms have happened, and they're like, this happened, and then you watch the movie, and it's just my favorite when they're like, oh yeah, we opened up a portal and a blizzard came through.
That's it. Yeah.
You hear that, fans?
Yeah.
It was just
calm down.
Didn't even need to pull out your books. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy, and it never fails to happen at least once per every Marvel movie, where people pick apart this one thing and it's just nothing.
Yeah.
Or it's like a throwaway joke. But we're plugging along. He's trying to fix the villains.
So he has at Happy's condo. He kept a machine that replicates things.
Yeah.
A replicator from Next Generation, of course. Earl Grey, hot. Sorry.
So that's how he's able to work on everybody.
Uh-huh. Okay. And so he's trying to make fixes, and then basically the Green Goblin side of Norman takes over, causes chaos. The action in this movie, for the most part, pretty decent, and I pretty much liked it. I particularly thought the web swinging and just the way he was doing stuff, all of them, as Spider-Man and using their webs was particularly exciting, action-wise.
Did you hear that they borrowed a move from the PS4 game in this movie?
No, I did not hear that.
It's the part where Norman snaps, and just before that, I needed to the Spidey sense sequence where it's like POV was so like suspenseful, so
that
cool.
was great.
Yeah, that was great.
But
they did the dolly zoom.
Yeah, the movie does is where he jumps up in the air, he whips a guy, and then he spins them over his head like 360, slams them onto the pavement, and then stomps their abdomen. And he does that to Norman on the balcony when they're fighting at Aunt May's place.
Oh yeah.
So the video game fans are like, "Woo!"
Yeah,
they tip their hat to that. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they have this pretty decent fight. I dig it. And then we get down.
Did we mention that Doc Ock gets fixed?
No, we did not.
No, we did not mention
And Electro almost got fixed.
I know when he gave him that thing and they're like, you got to charge it. I was like, oh, crap.
But what I love
suspenseful moment, yeah.
But I think what they did really well with Jamie Foxx's character is pretty much all he's talking about is how different he feels in this world. Like he feels more powerful. And it's like almost as if he was given the second chance. Because it's like he found out he was about to die. And so he's like, well, I don't want to die. But I also, the acting is good where you can kind of see where he's torn of like, I have to do this if I want to live. But the whole time he's like, I want to rip this thing off of me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of movies, they run the risk of being a little, let's say, sloppy when a character makes a change just based on verbal responses, not action, not any stimuli aside from just somebody introducing an idea to them. I think in this case, it works. What it does, it polarizes these villains here in this room. Some of them decide they don't want the fate that Peter's decided for them by fixing them, and others decide that they do. But I was just gonna say, when it's not action and it's verbal, and now in this case just Norman explaining to them that it's a gift and not a curse, it runs the risk of being sloppy. But it was all earned, right? You guys would agree?
Yeah,
okay,
definitely. But I get what you're saying for sure. And like it sounded like Sandman, which is kind of his reason with Spider-Man 3 too, is like he continues to fight against everybody because he's just like, I want to see my daughter.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, maybe you could have.
It's a little sloppy.
Fix you, but there's so many cooks in this. You gotta let him fly around as sand.
It's a miracle we got this. Yeah, as good as we did. You know?
There's so many turns where it could have just gotten so bad. And I think this scene, but before this big climactic scene with Aunt May, there was a part of me that was like, okay, this is simmering down a little bit, and it's Spider-Man, and I'm enjoying it, but this isn't like. I don't know that this is going to be my favorite of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. But then pretty much right after that, it picked back up and I was like, okay, yeah, I am here for all of this.
Well, I think because it happens so often in movies where it's like, we have to do all X, Y, and Z. And then you're just, as a viewer, it's just like, okay, they did that part. Now they got to do this other part. That's going to take like 15 minutes.
And you're like, this can't be the big set piece, so it's not going to work. And then they got to do it again. They
completely just threw that out after the scene, so I think that's just good writing.
As a writer, I have the writer mind too. I'm in the theater. I'm like, well, Aunt May just died, so something needs to pick the audience back up, or the rest of this movie is going to be a real bummer. I know that Garfield and Toby are going to be that shot in the arm that we need, and any minute now they're going to come in, so I can deal with this terrible, terrible death in this movie here.
Yeah, that's great.
She tries to walk it off, and that's the worst part for me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It just breaks my heart.
It was so when that scene happens, Green Goblin comes in and he shoots his whatever that thing is called. What is it called? The thing that he rides on?
Oh, his glider?
The glider.
I didn't know what it was called. So he shoots that into Aunt May and it hits her and it's like, oof, that hurts.
Yeah.
And she's not a superhero. So like, what is actually going to happen to her?
Yeah. But in my head, I'm like, well, they'll never kill Aunt May.
That's what I thought too. But then, she's walking. She seems really coherent. She does seem hurt, but she'll be fine. And then, she turns for the worst, like really quickly. And it's like, oh yeah, there were like blades on that thing. There was no way she could have survived.
I thought it's a great way to handle it because we're so used to the person lying there, dying, getting their last words out. They handled the deaths differently. I mean, she still got those last words out, but we did not see that fall coming quite when it happens. That's a great way to handle a character's death. I think just a little less predictable,
And this was the first time I cried in the movie.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think it might have been for me too.
Because I mean, and I was starting to tear up like when she started saying like, "It's you and me, Peter. It's you and me. It's you and me." And then when she says, you know, he's like, doesn't he say something to the effect of like, "Okay, I'm got to end it now," and she goes, "No, Peter. With great power, there must also come great responsibility." And I'm like, oh man.
Oh, I know.
And, you know, right before we went and saw this, I was talking about how, and we all know why. It's because we were oversaturated with great power comes great responsibility. But I was like, it is kind of weird that the crux of Spider-Man is pretty much absent from this series. Like, Uncle Ben dying is just, and I think it was the right choice for the time in history, but like, you know, it's kind of like, okay, at some point they need to address that because that's why he is who he is. Mm-hmm. But then, go ahead.
I was going to say, I was just reading just before this podcast, to rewind during the Doctor Strange fight, and this is something we should talk about, is when he separates his soul from his body, he still can use his body to dodge Doctor Strange's movements. Now, I was talking to Jer about that. We're scratching our heads. How do you explain that? Is it just spider sense? And the article I read was interesting. It was Peter needs this moment in his life to become the Spider-Man that he needs to be. Almost physically and biologically.
Oh, wow.
So, granted, that part with the body moving happens before Maze. Who knows what he could have done? Is what I'm saying. If he maybe earned that moment, if you buy into what this guy in this article I read is saying, I like that idea. Like I like that he's not quite even fully formed yet until she has to die for him to become the true Spider-Man. You know?
Yeah. I gotta think about that for a while.
Yeah.
But then she dies, and I was like dumbfounded by this moment. I just never thought that they would do something like that. Yeah. And I didn't think that they would do it, and I would think that was good storytelling. You know what I mean? Like, because when it happened,
they make it worth it.
It's worth it, and it now becomes like we were both saying, like it's the Uncle Ben moment, but now it's Aunt May gives it to him, and that's just like it's amazing. Yeah. I can't believe they pulled that off.
Yeah.
Marvel does those nice like little remixes, but almost always for the better, right?
Yeah.
Like compared to the source material, and in this case, definitely for the better. And I think I did cry, but now I'm remembering my emotions. I was pissed. Like I think I had a napkin in my hand and I crushed it and I slammed it on the ground. And I think part of it was because Norman, you don't even fucking know May. Like I don't think it's earned that you get to kill her.
Oh yeah.
Whether you're Spider-Man's biggest foe in any universe, that's fine. Yeah. But in this particular narrative, you're not shit to Peter Parker. How come you get to be the guy, you know? I was kind of mad about that.
I totally get that. And if anything, because it's always interesting to find out like who kills the person. It does matter in comic books.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, at least he was the one villain that Peter trusted for a moment.
Yeah.
In this movie. I mean, I know
that's where like another scene with Willem Dafoe, even like with Willem Dafoe and Aunt May, like just the two of them could have really benefited.
Yeah.
Story,
yeah. Maybe probably not any deleted. I think. Do you think? Like I haven't been checking out the Blu-rays, but there are a lot of deleted scenes when it comes to MCU movies today.
I don't know.
I feel like they all end up in the movie. Like they know exactly what they're doing now. They measured it out.
And Disney feels like they're at a level where they're like nothing else exists. And so, like once it's presented to you, everything else is gone.
If they do deleted scenes, they put them in the movie so they can re-release it.
Yeah,
in theaters because that's what they did with Endgame. There was like 3 extra minutes.
Oh, was there? Oh shit.
Yeah, okay. and it's nothing that like affects the plot. There's just a fun sequence where Spider-Man but there's bank robbers and he stops them, and then there's like a couple other little things. But
back to this movie, when Strange dangles over the Grand Canyon for he says 12 hours. I couldn't help but think of Ragnarok, which is like one of our favorites in this household. We watch it like every couple months. When Loki is at the Sanctum Sanctorum and he says, "I've been falling for 30 minutes." I feel like there was a callback to like when Strange suspended him. I love that. Because we always
that's
that
funny
at home.
But so that happens. May dies.
then we cut to MJ and Ned are at Ned's house.
Oh, this is the
and MJ's trying,
this is the moment.
So MJ's trying to get a hold of Peter because she's just like, I don't know, I'm gonna press this button. He's not getting back to me like I told him. And then Ned does something with the hands because he's got Dr. Strange's ring.
And they set it up earlier where he was like, my grandma says we have magic in the family.
Yeah, he's like, my hands get kind of numb sometimes. And he's like, you should probably see a doctor.
I was going back to how they really settled into the Doctor Strange humor. That response, that quippy, that to me is totally on brand with with who he is now. He's a prissy kind of smart ass.
And it's just like, oh, you could never be magical. Like you have a problem. You need to go see someone. Yeah. But he does something with his hands, and we see that little sparks, and then he does open a portal by saying, "I wish Peter was here," something like that.
Show me Peter.
Show me
something
Peter.
Like that.
And we do see the silhouette of what could be Peter, and he walks towards them, gets inside, and he is wearing a Spider-Man suit. So it's like it could be him, but I mean, everyone in the audience is like, "That's not his suit."
Yeah. So and he's taller.
Takes off the mask.
And it's Andrew Garfield.
Everyone goes crazy.
And even though it wasn't Toby, when that happened, my brain is like, okay, Toby's got to be in this, right?
That's what I'm thinking.
But I'm also like, I didn't realize that I'd be this excited to see him.
Me too. Yeah.
And
I just felt like they friggin' did it, which is funny because it's like I felt that way when all the villains entered to the arena, and it's like they did it, but it's like now they really did it.
But and there's this great sequence, like and what actually astounded me in this movie is they managed to treat each Spider-Man the way that their movies treated them. Mm-hmm. So like Andrew's is much more quippy. And like that sequence where Mary Jane says, "Hey, prove that you're Spider-Man," and he just jumps and puts just his fingertips. And she's like, "That's not proof enough." And he goes, "What are you talking about?"
He's like, "No one can do this."
And then he starts crawling around. He gets the cobweb. She's throwing bread at him and stuff. I'm like, this is so playing off of that version of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then I mean, are we good with Amazing Spider-Man? Should we move on, or do we want to?
Yeah, just like when I saw Garfield, like I start to feel a tingle in my heart, and then seconds go by.
Your spider sense is going off.
Exactly, the Peter tingle, and that's when the tears really come in. I wasn't expecting that either when Tobey Maguire comes in.
And I love that.
I'm surprised.
I love that he came as Tobey Maguire.
He came as Peter Parker.
He's not wearing a suit and everything, because now all these questions are going off in my head. Like, how come he's not wearing a suit? What was he doing the moment that he was brought into this world? Like, what's going on? Why is he here? Why is he older? When Andrew Garfield's like seemingly the same age.
Yeah.
I'd have to know all these
question.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it was such an unbelievable moment. I mean, it hit me so hard. That's the second time I cried. And he walks out. He's wearing just normal clothes, and like I was just saying with Amazing Spider-Man, they treat him like the Raimi movies treat him, which is like I mean, that's like the best version of Peter Parker we've ever got on screen, and so they're emphasizing the Peter Parker of it, the normalness of it, the normalcy of it all, and it's just great.
But he does, and they get into this a little bit later, which is so good. They really expound on, like, he is older and he is wiser.
Yeah.
Like, he has understanding in his eyes, and he is able to give advice. I mean, I know Andrew is
what a
too,
crazy
but, like,
world we live in, that this
great.
movie exists. And everyone likes it.
I
Except
know.
for like two film critics. Everybody likes
unanimously, yeah.
It's number 8 on IMDb right now.
Holy crap.
I mean, it's not the 8th best movie ever made.
I know, but that's...
People are excited. That just shows how excited people are.
Totally.
But take us through your Toby moment.
Me?
Yes,
well, he's dressed like the youth pastor. He shows up. Yeah, he's looking like he looks a little worn. And if you read anything like in the press, maybe Toby's had a few drinks and he's been gambling a little bit over the years. But we're just happy to see him back as Spider-Man. Who cares? But I love the way he played off of Garfield, and the other two guys. Well, like you said, Micah, totally true to the character for both of them. I was very impressed how they captured their voices. I was wondering, though, when he opens the portals, it almost makes it seem like he's getting them from their own universes, but they're just walking the streets of their New York. They just happen to do the shortcut with the portal,
right?
And pull them closer. And I was wondering where MJ was, Kirsten Dunst, because he looks a little worn. I'm like, did he get divorced like Peter B. Parker in Spider-Verse? My favorite Spider-Man ever.
Yeah.
Would have been cool if Jake Johnson showed up in this movie.
I would have loved that.
Even physically, and he was representing that guy.
Not even like he's not Spider-Man. Like if just Jake Johnson was like in the movie or on the radio, like we don't see him.
Yes,
that would be cool.
Yes, yeah.
Maybe he is Spider-Man, but they're like, "Hey, we need to call another one." I don't know. Now I'm getting greedy.
I like Jordan's. Like, if he showed up in sweatpants, it's like, "Do you guys need me?" And they're like, "No," and he just walks back through a portal.
Yeah, that would be so great. Like they catch him before that Spider-Verse movie happened, so he's still super depressed. Yeah,
but I loved that they didn't do, which actually I like this in Force Awakens, but I was really glad that they didn't do the Han Solo and Leia are divorced now situation.
So because they would have had so much explaining to do.
Yeah, because in like the next scene, they're all working on their separate cures for how they're gonna fix everybody, and it's cool that Garfield says like, it didn't work out. Like I don't know, and Tobey Maguire's like, you should keep trying. We've had a lot of trouble, but we figured it out. We make it work.
Yeah.
And that's just like, that just was, I would have been very unsatisfying to me if he was divorced. Because that's essential to the arc of the Spider-Verse Peter B. Parker. But this one would have just been kind of like, he's just divorced because we couldn't sign a contract, you know?
Yeah.
Is how it would have felt to me.
And Spider-Man is such a singular story. It's so easy to hop into his mind, especially I imagine not anymore for me, but when you're reading the comics and you're reading his panels, it's almost like when the other Spider-Men are building up their ego and Tobey Maguire is telling him that Andrew Garfield is indeed amazing.
Mm-hmm.
As a fan of the character, you're like, I'm glad that Spider-Man the character is getting the praise he deserves, because he never does. It's such a singular journey.
I love that moment because you could just see in Andrew Garfield's face like, I really needed to hear that.
Yeah. And he says I want to hear you say it, and he's like, he doesn't actually say it, but because Peter Parker Spider-Man is always very self-deprecating.
Yeah.
He can never get over the guilt of his uncle's death ever. So for someone else to say, I see you. And it feels like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, he has gotten over the death. That's how it feels, where that's why he's able to look at these situations and go, this is what we should do. He's calm, he's collected. He's not even quippy because he's not really insecure anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. But so when they find our Peter on the top of the school, and that I think I cried in this scene. I don't even know when or why. I think everybody did. But I think I'm just glad that this scene is a little long. Like they spend several minutes just on them, all the Spider-Men talking, and our Peter kind of saying like, you don't understand what I'm going through, when it's like they literally know what you're going through.
The only people who would really understand.
And I love stuff like that. And they're all kind of like, I love where they're like, well, my Uncle Ben died, and I wanted I tracked down the guy that did it. I wanted to kill him. Like, it's just so good.
I think what people are responding to, not just the fact that it's a Spider-Man movie, but these guys are all, three of them are from three different universes, yet they're so inherently connected that you almost, it's like a love story between these three men, and when they hug, it's just, you feel the love, especially in the third act of this movie. And I think it's infectious, really. It's just a good feeling to see those guys work together.
And I think it's also in that scene when Andrew Garfield talks about Gwen Stacy, where I'm the reason the love of my life died, basically. And later on in the movie, when he has to save MJ, I was just like, that's not fair.
I cried on that one too.
That was so much. And he's trying so hard not to like sob. And MJ's like, are you okay? And everyone in the audience is like, no, none of us are okay now.
Right.
Doesn't he say, I think so?
But we are.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Doesn't he say, I think so? Like that's going to help him get over that moment.
Yeah.
Which, that's the moment I was talking about earlier, where it was like that moment made me think that Amazing Spider-Man 2 was a good movie. That's how good the moment in this movie was.
This movie tricks you into thinking that the shitty Spider-Men are good. That's how good this movie is.
Yeah. A rising tide lifts all boats.
Honestly, that's what I was hoping for. Like, it doesn't make Tobey's look like shit. It makes it look better. You can watch them and then watch this and be like, this is a full meal. I don't feel gypped at all in any way.
Yeah.
Same for the Garfields if you're a fan, Yeah. I think there's something to love about all three of them. But they talk about the organic webbing, and that of course they have to address that.
I love that.
I think difference. I turned to you, Mike, and I was like, that was so satisfying. I needed them to talk about that.
Like an itch that just needed to get scratched.
When for Tobey Maguire's first, so it's like, to me, it's like, great, it's just in him, and then they have the Andrew Garfield's where he has to make it, and that stressed me out so much thinking about that he had to like continue to make the webbing. But yeah, that felt good. And then I also loved, very funny too, when Ned is going around like, do you have a best friend?
Yes.
And Tobey Maguire's like, yeah, and he rose up and tried to murder me.
And he died in my arms.
And he died in my arms.
And it's played for laughs. And we're like, I was there. I saw that movie. It wasn't funny.
Yeah. And Ned's that actor, Jacob Batalon, I think is how you say it. It's just so good. He's just like, okay, I'm not going to ask the other Spider-Man who his best friend was, because probably won't like the answer.
And honestly, someone's hacking into my Apple right now, so I'm.
Oh no!
I'm very distracted.
Where are they located?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think we ended on Ned asking Tobey who his best friend is, and Tobey told him, and then Ned was like, okay, I'm not going to talk to any of them. Although I think he goes up to R. Peter and is like, I think he's just like, I love you, buddy.
Yeah, I'm never going to turn into a villain and try to kill you.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Funny. Good. Like, all the jokes land. Yeah. I think I can't think of one that doesn't in this, except when Tobey says his friend died in his arms. But even that's funny. And then, like, just weird to me. It's a weird one. But they end up, what I like is they end up finding solutions to each of their foes. Mm-hmm. Like Sandman, they figure out, and they have the device that they use to basically reverse him. It looks just like a little mini super collider. It like moves like one too. So that was kind of a nice touch, because that's how he became Sandman.
Oh yeah.
And then I think the lizard serum is just like his serum in the Amazing Spider-Man. It's like a green kind of gaseous serum. So I like that. Like, they pay so much attention to their franchise and then give them so much respect,
Yeah.
Yeah. And and it is nice that, especially with, if you throw in the behind the scenes stuff, Sony and Disney having disagreements and all that stuff, for them to not try and like, they're not putting down the Amazing Spider-Man movies.
Right.
I mean, he does mention that in his world he fights like metal rhinos, which I think was them being like, yeah, we know that last shot of Amazing Spider-Man 2 was pretty stupid. But anyway,
So when the fighting starts, they're not doing well, and they all realize that they need to work as a team.
Yeah, love that.
And this was just a great acknowledgement of R. Peter being like, oh, I'm on a team. Like, I'm on part of a team. I know how to work as a team. And they're like, really? You have a team? And he's like, yeah, I'm part of the Avengers. That's great. What are the Avengers? And he's like, you guys don't have the Avengers? And he's talking about like, that one time, I fought here with a team and I fought in space with a team. And both Tobey and Andrew are like, you went to space?
Yeah. He's just his adventures compared to theirs is just night and day, isn't it?
I don't even think he mentioned like, oh yeah, and I disappeared. Like, I literally stopped existing for 5 years.
Yeah.
I don't think they quite got on that topic.
Right.
But it was just all great acknowledgments, and so our Peter kind of like is kind of running the show. He's like of the team.
Yeah.
I love that video that he has when he calls into the Daily Bugle and he has a little chat, a little talk with Jonah. And it's a chilling scene because he's like tired of fucking around, basically. Yeah. He's like, meet me at the Statue of Liberty. And sure enough, they all show up, and that's where the big brawl happens. What did you think of the the makeover of the Statue of Liberty for this movie?
I didn't.
I thought it was interesting. I had caught earlier in the movie there was someone like in a Daily Bugle or on the phone or something that was like complaining about the shield being put on the Statue of Liberty. So when it happened, I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And but I mean it's one of those funny things where it's like, I don't know that anyone would ever do that. Like that would ever happen.
I think it's like
for any reason
that we would just build a different huge giant monument.
But as far as the set design goes, like it was cool. I mean, Spidey, who represents New York, is fighting with two other Spideys on the Statue of Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, this is full circle because Feige produced the first X-Men movie, and that takes place in the third act on the Statue of Liberty. And he acknowledges himself. Yeah, that was like his first foray into comic book producing. So it's really come full circle for him now.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did think about X-Men.
Yeah, I forgot
like all
about
I remember
that.
about that movie.
Well, and another
not a big fan of the first one.
Yeah. Another little fun one was when he was swinging around in Times Square at the beginning. I saw the Broadway posters for the Rogers musical from Hawkeye, so that was kind of fun. But one thing that we have not really talked about at all, though, is throughout the movie, and it was just a great like marker of time, and to be like, okay, next act, we'd cut to J. Jonah Jameson doing his like newscast podcasting thing, and having that little intermission every 20, 30 minutes was just, I loved that so much.
Yeah, it was good pacing.
And then when he pulled out the pills and started selling those, I was like, oh, now we're just directly making fun of Alex Jones, and this rules. Keep making fun of the guy.
Totally. It's like, we just totally accept that Jameson has stepped into our universe. Before the spell even happened, he's just here, guys. It's just like he's Alex Jones this time, but he's here. There was no spell or anything. I just love that.
I do think there could have been one moment, and we're talking, this doesn't ruin anything, but a moment where like Tobey Maguire hears it, or they see a report, and he's like, you got him in this universe too?
Oh my God, that would have been great.
Like, I'm sorry, man. And he's got a different haircut, so they could be like, oh, that's not my Jonah, but whatever.
He was such a foil to Tobey in those those originals. So yeah, I would have loved that, just to hear his voice and shudder. Because he was his boss for so long.
Yeah. But then we have this epic showdown, and we get to see 3 Spider-Men fighting, and I'm excited the whole time.
Never thought I'd live to see that. I never thought I would. Yeah. Crazy.
Especially after seeing 5 Spider-Men fight just a few years earlier. I didn't think I'd see 3 more.
Well, I always thought I would see 5, but I never thought I would see 3.
Yeah.
And another just great joke in the movie was when Electro is finally powered down, and Peter takes off his mask, and he's like, oh, I always, you fight for the poor.
Yeah.
You like are in the neighborhoods and stuff. I always thought you were black.
Garfield's just like, I mean, kind of wish I was black. I mean,
I think he's like, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, man. I get it, man. No, like I definitely was more than 50% expecting a Miles Morales breakthrough debut in this movie.
Yeah.
Little disappointed, but that's okay. I mean, we'll get to him. We'll get to him.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, what is there to say about the battle? It's a big battle.
Well, so MJ and Ned are like, keeps a portal open with the box, I think, so that they know when to press the button.
Yeah.
And I know chaos ensues, and they get onto the Statue of Liberty. How does Doctor Strange come back? Does he like?
I think a portal and just kind of comes in, and I don't know why it took. Was he digging for 12 hours before that?
I thought Ned opened it up.
I think they were like, we need him now.
Well, no, I think he's just trying to open something up, and it just happens.
Okay.
He just kind of walks in.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I'm here.
Right. And then the battle's going on. It's not going super great, but they start getting a handle on things, and that's when Doctor Strange enters the picture, and he's kind of like, wow, you've done a lot. Maybe this can work at a time. And then I think Green Goblin shows up.
And the universe starts cracking open.
Yeah. And so what was Doctor Strange going to do before Peter told him what he should do?
Well, they still had the box, so he grabbed it and he was
right.
like going to use it.
That's right. But then Peter says, "What if everyone forgot me?" So kind of back to square one.
Yeah. And so this is how you get to that ending place where MJ no longer knows who he is, where Ned no longer. It's a great place to put him there, but did we 100% earn it here with this? When we don't even, I had to like go on message boards a little bit. I had to kind of like, I had to figure out what the figures in the sky were. And if I don't know 100% what the threat is that's coming, that is going to cause such a significant change in his life and the universe, to me, that's not 100% bueno. What do you guys like? Do you feel the same way?
I mean, like, were they other people who knew Peter from other universes?
That's what they like. After watching a breakdown, that's what they'll have you say, because there's like a silhouette of a rhino and a Craven apparently. But yeah, it was sloppy to me, and that's why I felt like I love this ending, but I don't know if we 100% earned it because of that moment with the purple cracks and just the silhouettes and the vagueness of it. That's just me though.
I was that one, like, I kind of put under the category of like, I don't know, it's just bad, which sometimes you have to do. That's not an excuse for the movies. They should do better at that. But sometimes it's like, oh yeah, a faceless threat, I guess. And I know, because I've seen enough movies, read enough stories, I know that means bad. So that's like, they're just kind of depending on that shorthand. But it did, I mean, especially you bring it up, it is just kind of like, okay.
Yeah. My life's changed forever now because of this thing that the audience may not be able to fully wrap their minds around unless they watch a breakdown of the movie or really discuss it with their friends afterwards.
Yeah.
Right.
But I mean, on the other hand, it's like, well, things have gotten bad enough with just a few people slipping through the cracks. And these are like big tears, so maybe this just means that's why I kind of chalk it up. Yeah. But it's not like it was defined. We didn't know what that really meant. But then, he makes the I almost said curse, the spell.
It's a curse to Peter.
And it makes it so everyone doesn't remember who he is. And I like how, like, when he sees Happy, well, no, let's not go to the graveyard yet. What am I thinking?
It does raise a lot of questions with the Happy scene, a lot of questions.
Yes, but let's send off our Spider-Man, right?
Okay.
He has a little bit of time, and
Toby gets stabbed by the Green Goblin.
Which I was like, don't kill him. I would have been pretty mad about that, because that didn't feel earned in the way that we've been discussing.
Agreed.
And so I was glad that he was like, no, I've been stabbed before. I will be okay.
It just looked really bad.
My thinking was that Garfield is totally up for more Spider-Man movies. Maguire isn't. How do we get rid of Maguire but keep Garfield around? But they kept them both around, to the movie's credit. Yeah. And that was a great moment when Tom Holland picks up the glider. He's about to throw it down and kill Green Goblin, and Tobey Maguire jumps in, and he doesn't say anything, right? He just looks at him and gives him the look, because he's the wise old Spider-Man.
He's like, I've been in this moment.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
And that Norman has done not necessarily the same amount of bad, but I mean, he tried to kill his Aunt May, and he's done all these bad things. So he's okay with Norman dying. It basically, Norman being dead maybe prevents Harry from dying. You know, there's all these things.
Right.
And he's still able to hold up the glider and say, no, don't do it. I love that.
And he gets stabbed immediately in the back. And that's all cool. That's all fine. But to your point again with the Jameson recognition with Toby, like, I would have liked if he and his original foe would have had a little more time together, you know?
That would have been nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well.
I mean, it is nice that we all across the board, it sounds like we love this movie, but we just wish it was longer.
More. Yeah.
That's a pretty good complaint to have for your movie.
Yeah.
But so that happens. The boys, do they say they love each other? Right?
He says, I love you. I think they do. I know Garfield says it when they do the jump, and then at the end when everything is all resolved, they might. I
know Peter's trying to like explain everything, but he can't. And they're both like, we get it.
Yeah. And they just hug. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is so sweet.
Yeah, it's very sweet. They go back, and then we see the grave of Aunt May.
Well, he says goodbye to MJ and Ned.
Oh yes, he says goodbye to them.
And Ned and him do their handshake like for the last.
They do.
Hopefully not for the last time, but it's like pulling on the heartstrings.
Yeah.
And it's just classic, cute, where he's telling MJ what's going to happen, and she tells him I love you, and he's about to say it back, and she says, Tell me when you find me.
Yeah.
And it's that's not fair, man.
Zendaya, a strong contender for MVP with that one scene right there.
It's good.
So then Aunt May's grave. My little nitpick, I wish that she was on a plot that also had Uncle Ben next to her. That would have been nice to see, Ben Parker next to her. But I do really like this because it sets up a couple of rules that are, yes, confusing, but I think exciting. Happy is at the grave, and Peter Parker's at the grave, and Happy says, how did you know her? And he says, Spider-Man, right?
Yep,
yeah.
through Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So, but they still fought at the airport in Germany. It's just, was he a private contractor for them, a silent partner, and they just don't know his identity?
Yeah, that's because then Happy says, through Spider-Man as well. Mm-hmm. And that acknowledges that he does not know who he is. So my thought is, because they did a similar, for those who do not know, in the 2010s, they had, Spider-Man's been a comic book for 40 plus years. And he's been married to MJ for a while. And in a way, the writers are kind of like, how can we undo this? Because we always have to make MJ just be like, hey, why are you out doing Spider-Man stuff? Which makes people not like MJ.
Yeah.
So on a practical level, they're like, how do we do it? So he makes a deal with Mephisto, and Mephisto takes their marriage and takes away his identity, who he had revealed to the world in the Civil War. So in doing all of those things, they undo everything. And a lot of people, I actually like that storyline. It's a pretty fun read, but it's completely reviled amongst Spider-Man fans. It's very, very stupid, but I thought it was very fun. And he also prevents Aunt May from dying by striking this deal. So he do that, then they're able to basically relaunch the comics with Brand New Day.
Okay.
Right.
And it's a good place for, people to start. And that's when Dan Slott starts writing the comics. So if you want more stories like the one you read today, Dan Slott made Spider-Verse, start at Brand New Day, and you can read a bunch of great stories. But in that, when he faced characters that had known his identity, if I'm remembering right, there was kind of just a fuzziness in their brain, because at that time he'd become good friends with the Human Torch, and they knew each other's identities, and there was an issue where he was teaming up with the Fantastic Four, and they were like, we don't know who you are, but I thought we had something, but I don't know what it was. And if I remember right, I think he unmasks at the end, I think. And then the memories flood back to them, and they remember who he is.
Okay.
I believe so. It's he can reveal the curse or the...
Lift the curse.
Lift the spell, yeah.
I'm thinking, even though we do get to see Peter around Christmas time try to just kind of casually stalk MJ and Ned at the donut shop, I think it would be, in the next movie, it will be quite easy to get their memories back. I don't know why I say that. It's just I'd like to think it'll be easier than we think to get. Maybe it's just as simple as the handshake, and boom, he's back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels familiar to him, therefore he's going to trust this guy that he still can't quite remember. And
she's wearing the Black Dahlia necklace.
I didn't notice that.
I didn't realize that.
Something tells her in her mind to wear it. Mm-hmm. So there's maybe a fuzziness,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a fun twist, because in the comics, it's he still has relationships with people after this curse or spell that he has happen. And in this movie, when we found out that no one knows who he is at all, I was like, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot there. And then we have that great scene at the coffee shop. And I mean, favorite scene, of course, it's going to be seeing Tobey Maguire. But I think the best scene in this movie are the next two sequences, where he goes to the coffee shop. He has it written down what he's going to say to MJ. He's going to tell her he loves her. And he walks up, and he doesn't say it. And that right there is a freaking Spider-Man story right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is how you write it, where he just can't have it all. He's always going to try, but he can't.
He removes himself from the equation for the greater good of the people in his life. That's what the sacrifice he's willing to make, which is incredibly selfless. Yeah.
Yeah, breaks my heart though.
Yeah. And must have been a creepy moment for MJ if she's not having any fuzziness. If she's just seeing this random guy just staring at her.
Yeah. So I try to put myself in her shoes, like in that scene. Is like, yeah, it's a little weird. I don't care how cute he is. He's just staring at you for a long time.
But like that right there is like, that's why they cast those two actors, because they're like destroying this right now.
Right.
And so they have this great moment, and then he goes to an apartment, and I think I cried in the coffee shop scene. And then when they got to his apartment, I started crying toward the end, just because it was like, now this is Spider-Man. Because up to this point, we have had a Spider-Man who is well-connected. He's not on his own. He's sort of friendly neighborhood, but it's been pretty global. And on top of all that, he has access to billions of dollars. And Spider-Man's poor. He's a man of the people.
There was a part of me that thought when he opens the door to his apartment and all we see is him is not the apartment, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's going to be the same apartment as Tobey Maguire.
I thought so too.
Right? Like it looks a lot like, it looks shitty and wooden and just kind of just old.
I was like, and when it wasn't, it's like, oh, but they could have, and that would have been okay.
There was a moment, and I was like, Micah, you're really going wild with this, where I thought the blonde girl, Ursula, was gonna like be like, hi, Peter, and then I'm like, that doesn't make any sense for that
for you.
Oh, man. But it did cross my mind.
Too much.
Oh yeah, it wouldn't. That doesn't make any sense. But
people would have laughed. I thought really hard at that. I know I would have.
Yeah.
But he comes in, small apartment, sets down his stuff. And we complain about this in movies when they're like, I just have a small apartment and it's this beautiful apartment.
Hey, this place looks like a dump.
That looks like an actual Spider-Man kind of apartment.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then he sees that there's some help, and he goes and he swings off in the snow, which looked really cool. And then it says Spider-Man, or then the credits roll. Right? Yep. Did we do it?
So. Yeah, he's got a new suit. It's shiny. I think that's it.
What's the first post-credit scene?
That is Venom. Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, this is, so to relitigate for our listeners, a little bit ago, because I listened to the 90 Under 90 coverage of Let There Be Carnage, I didn't really want to go see that movie, but I listened to your episode, which was a very funny episode. Would recommend.
I love that one. That was a fun one.
You guys talked about in the post-credit scene how Tom Hardy, like, sees news footage of Spider-Man being unmasked.
Yes.
So I thought, okay, that means Spider-Man, like, this is in the same universe. But what this movie posits and says is that he got ripped from his universe, put into the MCU, has a conversation, leaves a little Venom pee on the counter, and then he gets sucked back into his universe.
That's right.
What I would submit to you, the listeners, but hey, we want to do what you guys want us to do. I would submit that the Venom movies are not in the MCU proper, and we don't have to cover them.
You just don't want to talk about the Venom movies, right?
Well, it's just getting a little overwhelming.
So many.
And I think we could do a fun Spider-Man dive and do all 5, but I don't think we have to because of this movie. I mean, we've always wanted to do the Raimi one, but we've been like building. But
wait a second.
And I think
brought up
we
Morbius
will do Venom,
earlier, and you were like, "We need to talk about Morbius." Are you excited about Morbius, or are you just going to disregard Morbius?
Well, unless he's MCU proper, I would put him in the Venom camp and not worry about him. Until we cover the SSU, the Sony Spider-Man universe.
Any reason to not watch that movie?
Yes.
Yeah, I really don't want to watch Morbius.
No.
Ugh,
it looks
no, thank you.
Bad.
Well, and just want to tell our listeners, if you're not familiar with Morbius, he premiered in Spider-Man, and he's a character that pops up, and it feels like, I don't know, every 5-10 years they go, oh, we should write a solo Morbius magazine. That'll do good. and it lasts for maybe a year, and then they always cancel it. So
Ew.
I don't know why they're making a solo movie out of someone they can't. He's fun in Spider-Man sometimes, not even all the time. It's gonna be a train wreck.
Even if they team Spidey up with Mahershala Ali's Blade, and Blade turns out to be the coolest MCU character, and they have to fight Morbius, I'm still not going to be 100% into that because it's Jared Leto's Morbius.
Yeah,
I know.
And it also just the actual color of it looks very ugly to me. I don't like looking at the film
because this movie's been pushed. Right? It's been pushed up a couple times.
5-6 times.
So you had mentioned like they probably shot this movie like 4 years ago. And it's like, 4 years ago, everyone was getting annoyed with Jared Leto, but now we straight up do not want him anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Like he needs to go away. But at the time, it's like, okay, I guess it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Not
I'm
anymore,
surprised he hasn't gotten Me Too'd yet, to be honest, because he's a shady fucking dude. Yeah.
He's weird.
Yeah.
What was it like? It was like Jimmy Fallon or something, where it was like the headline
where he didn't
was like,
know
he didn't know the pandemic was happening because he was on some like retreat thing for like meditation, and it's like,
whatever.
Come on, dude, just go back.
He's in Leto world.
Yeah.
He should stay there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
not a fan.
Although I believe in the first trailer they dropped for Morbius, which was before the pandemic even happened. That's how long ago they shot this movie. I believe Michael Keaton was in the movie as the Vulture.
Right. That's right.
Which
he is.
means maybe he's in the MCU proper. I'm not sure. I hope not.
I think he's going to cross over. Yeah, unfortunately.
But I think the movie's going to do so poorly they won't.
If you guys end up doing a Morbius episode, I'll do it with you guys if you want. I mean,
we could use the support if that happens.
I'll take the bullet. I'm sure others would love to as well, but you know.
Sometimes it's fun to hate a movie, but
it seems exhausting in this case.
When I saw Suicide Squad for the first time, I thought I was going to like it. You feel wrong.
2016.
That burns you inside. But this movie's like, I know it's going to be bad, so I don't want to watch it.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know at least with the Venom movies, we will have fun. That's guaranteed.
Yeah.
This movie does not look fun. It looks like a slog.
I haven't seen the Venom movies more out of laziness.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, okay, it's not technically part of MCU, so that's okay.
I compare Venom 2 to like Batman Forever or Batman and Robin. Like if you like that sort of like stupid level of entertainment, you're gonna like Venom 2. I think.
Okay, then we're gonna love Venom 2.
Yeah.
It's just like it's surprisingly gay, Venom 2. Like it's working on some other level.
Well, any final words on Spider-Man No Way Home?
Everyone should go see it, but everyone already has.
Yeah, I hope so. I loved it.
Yeah. What can I say except I want him a little more Norman. I feel like he kind of got the short shrift in this movie, but that's okay because there wasn't a lot of time to parse out that narrative. But it totally justifies, what is it, rocking like a 94, 95 right now on Rotten Tomatoes? Something like that. Yeah, it totally justifies all the success that it's earning, and I hope we get more movies like this in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for as much as we get flack on Marvel being inside the box, I know it's fan servicey, but it's pretty out there fan service. So I think credit where credit is due. This is still a huge swing for them.
Yeah,
and I loved it.
Me too.
Great time, and like I said before, I'm surprised to see that the world loves Spider-Man almost like as much as the group of heroes that he belongs to every now and then.
Yeah, it feels good. It feels good. Well, Dan, tell the people about yourself. Where can they find more Dan?
Well,
I know a couple places.
Well, we recently changed our host, but you can just check out the 90 Under 90 podcast wherever you get podcasts. We talk about movies that are 90 minutes in length or under. Our new season kicks off in January, and a season is 2 years long because it's 90 movies in 90 weeks, plus bonus episodes. So we're ready to kick off another 2 years in January. It's very exciting. Our first episode is Aristocrats, the documentary about that dirty joke. I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh.
Yes. Tim Heidecker talked about it on Office Hours a little while ago.
I missed it.
We'll have to. Well, hey, a great plug for the listener. There'll be an episode all about it this January.
And then an intervention came out January 1st of 2021. I got another movie coming out in 2022. But for now, you can check out an intervention on, Amazon Prime, Tubi, Google Play, and Roku TV.
And do it, people, because it's so funny.
It is a very, very funny movie and very sweet.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the condescending kind of sweet, but like you walk away. It was very uplifting to me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, that's great. That's a great endorsement. Thank you.
And I can cut this if you want, but there is another movie coming out, as you said. But there is a little.
No, please, yeah.
There will be a little. There's a little Micah McCaw action in that movie as well.
Right. That's
and
right.
I'm excited for people to wink, wink, hear that part of the movie. So
that's right. I think they got the idea.
Yeah,
yeah.
If it's not any more obvious, Micah does the score for our new movie. A good chunk of the score because we repurpose it so much.
Oh, you do? Great. Good.
Yes, and it's great. And the movie's called The Golden Apron, and you can check that out sometime in 2022.
It's the footage that I had to compose that song to was so funny. I feel like this feels like it's definitely going to top an intervention, but we'll see because I did really like that one.
We're trying to make. I don't know if I'm spoiling this. I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, don't. You can tell us when we stop recording.
Okay. Yeah.
But
well, thank you so much for having me. This was such a monumental episode. And I feel so honored to be a guest here on the MPU. So thank you.
Yeah. And next week for you MPU heads, we will be doing Matrix Revolutions, and then that'll be followed by Matrix Resurrections. And
shit.
Yeah. On Patreon, we got our watch along of Scooby-Doo 2.
Yep.
And then next month it'll be the Bob Odenkirk Nobody to help us guide us through the John Wick movie. So sign up for Patreon.
Nice.
Oh, and watch the Christmas show. Sign up on Patreon, watch the Christmas show. Yeah. There's a ton of stuff to check out.
Great
Merry
time.
Christmas.
Check out yes. Happy holidays. I definitely would endorse your Christmas show. Great time. Listeners, check it out.
Yeah. It's link in bio. Time. Link in bio. No, I mean in the show notes. That's what I mean. Yeah. Yes. All right. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.
Peace out.